What if I told you that 1,000 YouTube subscribers could make you way more money than 100,000 subscribers? Fact is that you've been thinking of YouTube all wrong. 6 months from now, you could either look back at this moment as the day you finally took YouTube seriously, or the moment you let $100,000 or more worth of sales slip through your fingers while your competitors kept stealing your clients. And we're already beginning to see YouTube get more and more saturated due to AI. If you wait another 2 years, who knows where things will be? There's never been a more crucial time to start YouTube than today. And that's why I am making this complete guide to walk you through YouTube step by step from zero. Even if you know nothing and have never been on camera before, all the way to making your first 15 videos targeting your ideal clients. And I'm going to give you the proven system that can generate anywhere between $20,000 to $100,000 for your business in under 6 months. This is the information that some people charge thousands of dollars for, but you get it all for free today. This information took me 11 years to learn, and it's the exact same information that I have used to advise MrBeast on his channel, deliver 3 separate masterclasses for Tai Lopez and his private students, and I've even helped several businesses with less than 1,000 subscribers get multiple 5-figure and 6-figure deals. Which is why this isn't for hobby vloggers or travel channels or people who want to become super popular and get millions of views. Although those people can still learn a lot from this video, but this is instead more for founders, coaches, consultants, course creators, freelancers, or brands who want YouTube to build authority and who want to attract 6 or even 7-figure sales and business opportunities. So here's what we're going to cover over the next 3, 4, or 5 hours, whatever, step by step, right? I'll have timestamps below so you can skip whatever parts you want to, but we'll begin with research and strategy. So I'll show you exactly how to position your channel for success from the get-go. Then we'll talk about how to plan your content, which means how to generate your first few video ideas using the proven frameworks and templates of what actually makes money, and then how to filter them down furthermore, because these days anybody can use ChatGPT for ideas, but how do you know which one's actually good? That's what we're going to talk about. Then we'll talk about packaging, which is basically how do you make the title and design a thumbnail in the simplest way possible that will attract your ideal clients and only your ideal clients. Then we'll talk about scripting, right? So we'll structure your videos so well that people actually feel stupid for not watching and buying from. And of course, we're going to use ChatGPT or whatever AI you want to use for the scripts. Then we'll talk about production, the lowest friction system possible to film like I'm filming right now. And if you look at what I'm filming with, you'll laugh, right? So the exact equipment, the exact editing requirements, and everything you need to, in the lowest, simplest way possible, start your channel, and exactly how to upload your content in the most optimized way possible using search engine optimization techniques. And then finally, we'll end by talking about the automation system and frameworks to build your team and repurposing each video into 75 pieces of content or more for every single social media platform. And finally, the monetization system of exactly how to funnel viewers and build the ideal client flow using this YouTube channel as your baseline. So before we even talk about filming or scripting or any of the stuff that you think is important, we need to start where every successful channel either succeeds or fails. And that is all about building the right strategy. Because if you don't know what your overall approach is and how you're going to stand out from your competitors, it won't matter how good your videos are. You'll waste months or maybe even years to see any results. So let's start with the first step, which is understanding the market and your target audience properly. If you really want to do this in the deepest way possible, which is what I recommend, you can download this template from the link in the description, and this template is gonna give you a lot of prompts to fill everything out in the hyper most detailed way possible, so that you basically have, every single detail you need about your niche, business model, vertical, role, blah blah blah. There's quite a lot of stuff here you can go over. Your offer, your activities, your pricing, everything. This is what we do for our clients, by the way. Every time we bring somebody on, we go this in depth to understand the brand itself and what it stands for and what are the keywords to use and stuff like that. And then we also understand the ideal client persona in this much depth, right? So this is kind of what you want to do if you really want to go super in depth, and if you have a full-time team that can go and research this stuff, get them to do that. But even if you don't want to go through the super in-depth one, I still recommend you to at least bare minimum do this Notion project, because again, the link will be in the description for you to download, duplicate this project. This is a past clients research that I had done. This is before AI existed. So, this is like, this process at least has been something I've been doing since 2021, and it's only since ChatGPT came in, things have been easier. earlier. But regardless, the thing is that most people on YouTube just try to copy what gets views for their competitors, right? Like 5 side hustles kind of videos, because the fact of the matter is that that's what most short form content agencies and YouTube gurus tell you to do. They tell you to chase the most viewed thing. But the fact is that that's not what gets you buyers. Because think about it. You as an entrepreneur are never going to watch 5 side hustle based videos. And even if you do, you're never going to buy from somebody like that, right? That's why most people who are at the upper echelons of entrepreneurship have never purchased from a guy like Iman Ghazi, because he became popular selling BizOp. And unless you're selling BizOp yourself, you should not be making videos that are for BizOp, right? So the reason why this is pushed upon you is because unfortunately most people don't know how to attract a niche audience. But that's really what you want. You don't want to get millions of views and 0.0001% of them are your target audience. So you get thousands of book calls from unqualified people and you have to reject everything. It just makes your life so much harder, But on the other hand, you could just have it way simpler, where you just follow this simple process that I'll show you now, and you'll attract only your ideal clients. It starts off with understanding the demographics. Now, if you already are running a business, you already have an offer, you already have a target audience, you have some case studies, right? Just look at your past clients. Probably the best way to look at it is your previous best clients. What is their age? Where are they located? How much money do they make? How much money do they want to make, right? That's bare minimum demographics. Anything else you want to think about that is common between all of them in general, right? Very, very, very common. Like maybe they're confused in general. That's their problem. They need clarity, or they struggle with systems, right? Just keep it bare minimum basics. Then we'll dive into the psychographics. So the reason you want to go deep and as deep as possible, right? So I go deep, like I list down the false beliefs of the audience, right? What are the things that they believe which is wrong, that this offer will, or this person, in this case, you, right? What are the false beliefs that the audience has that you can correct for them? And these new beliefs are only linked to you, right? So they end up buying from you because nobody else shares the same belief that they have now, because their beliefs have changed. So the reason you want to go deep is because every micro insight could give you a competitive advantage. Example, this channel, we made their most popular video work. I mean, it became their most popular video just because of the fact that we got this one insight. The fact was that nobody was making videos about crypto taxes when the tax season was coming around, and there had been no videos on crypto taxes for over 2 years. That was the insight. Everybody's talking about how to make money. Nobody's talking about how to save money in taxes. Crypto is a whole different ball game. But let me tell you that this one video, just because of this one insight we got, that people need videos around saving money because there's nobody else doing it, and people want to save money because obviously we just added the angle of crypto tax lawyer explains, because we got a crypto tax lawyer to have essentially a podcast session, and that became their best performing video. And trust me when I say this video has made them way more money than you can imagine. Even for the crypto space, you have to understand that even for the crypto space, it made way more money than you can imagine. I just can't reveal the exact numbers, but this brand, and we've been working with them for a while, like more than a year now. We make their thumbnails for a really long time, but we made only a few proper YouTube videos, right, for them, and this is one of them. And the reason it worked is because we understand the audience better than the audience understands themselves, right? So if you are an entrepreneur in general, trust me, just do this and your business will flourish as well. Like your copy, everything is going to improve if you just list this down. Like false beliefs, like in this case, this was a client who is selling an offer about how to grow your agency. So people's false beliefs are like scaling beyond 10K a month requires a big team and significant capital, right? So these are false beliefs that can be corrected. Then we talk about the fears, which are the long-term things that people fear, right? I don't know how to describe it better. Fear. So, they fear being stuck at a certain revenue level. They fear not making enough money, then having to get a 9-to-5 job. That's a big fear, or getting broke, not being able to pay their team members, whatever, right? And there are frustrations. These are more short-term things. Like they're frustrated with something going wrong right now. Inconsistent leads. Frustrated with maybe they have 3 different offers, or they have some clients that are too demanding, or sales calls don't go well. Frustrations, right? Short-term things that can be fixed relatively quickly. Then there are dreams. These are the long-term things. So dream of, making 20K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month, right? And their ultimate goals, right? Long-term, they want to become an authority in their niche. They want to build a business that only supports their lifestyle but also allows them to invest in passions and interests outside of work, things like that. Then desires are short term again. Okay, so desires like, they want a proven system for lead gen, they want a long lasting relationship with clients to increase LTV and stuff like that. If you really want to go fancy, you can also do ICP, market sophistication and awareness levels, but that's too complicated for now. Let's skip that. Okay, next we'll go into the competitors. Now this is where most people end up going wrong, and trust me on this, I've worked with YouTubers at 11 million million, 20 million subscribers and hyper big, as well as the small ones at 0, 10,000 subscribers, 1,000, 500, 100 subscribers, whatever. Biggest mistake everybody makes is this one major thing. This is why this research is super important. And it is that most people end up studying only their direct competitors, right? Only the people who are in the exact same niche, targeting the exact same offer or have a similar offer to the same target audience. Boom. But that's the most basic thing, because if you only end up copying your competitors, your direct competitors, you're going to end up being them and you're going to just copy what's performing well for them. Therefore, you're going to end up literally just parroting them and nobody's going to be innovative. You don't stand out and nobody has a reason to buy from you, because your competitors are doing the exact same thing, but they're doing it better because they've been doing it for longer. So instead, what you want to do, right, is of course list down your direct competitors, because it's important to see what they're doing, but it's more important to see what your adjacent and alternative competitors are doing. Okay, and this is very important. So your adjacent competitors are the people who talk about the same topics, but they target a wider or a different market. So for example, this guy sells agency growth, but people who are adjacent are people who talk about how to build a freelancing business or general business growth like Alex Hormozy, or they talk about business marketing, business sales, right, or specific business function. Then there are alternative competitors. These are people who speak to your same audience, but they offer them a different path. They're competing essentially for the same audience, right, but they're talking to them about a different thing. So before, basically it was direct competitors talk to the same audience and same topic. Adjacent competitors talk to a different audience but about the same topic. Then alternative competitors talk to the same audience but about a different topic. Okay, the reason you want to do all these three things is because you can then steal, good artists copy, great artists steal. That is exactly what we're going to do. But to do that, we need to understand the competition, but not just the direct competitors, but the ones that most people don't tap into, which is what are similar niches to yours doing and what's working there that is not being done in your niche. That is the goal of this, is to steal insights and put them into our own niche in a way that nobody else is doing. And therefore, you seem original even though you're not original. You're just copying something from another niche that is very similar to yours, because the audience behaviors will be similar in a similar niche. Then I'll skip most of these other things, but the important thing that I will touch upon is you need to research keywords. Okay, so we did market research already. Now we're talking about content positioning, right? So you want to position yourself uniquely, and the only way to do that is to, well, first of all, know what are the exact keywords, right? So how we do this is, I would recommend using vidIQ. You can use it for free, but I think it's $10 a month or maybe $20 a month or something cheap like that. And it's going to give you the search volume for keywords as well as the amount of competition, right? So I look at it like this. So if I search up, let's say SMMA, right? This is a year back when SMMA was popular, maybe 2 years, a year and a half or so. Search volume 1 million, which means 1 million people are searching for that thing every month. SMMA, the keyword. So what a banger keyword to target, right? And competition level low. That's exactly what you want. Competition low means there are less people making content around this. And that's exactly the kind of keywords you want to chase, right? So agency course, agency growth, client acquisition. Now you see some of these are bottom funnel, right? So agency course is very bottom funnel, but it's only for the people who are your exact target audience, in this case for his target audience. SMMA, however, is broad. Now, people searching SMMA could be like, what is SMMA? Should I start SMMA, right? Very different kinds of audience, more top of funnel keyword. Whereas bottom of funnel or middle of funnel is more agency growth, agency course, client acquisition, or a tool like Go High Level. So you want to basically do keyword research like this. You want to just think about, okay, what are the different topics that people search for? And I recommend not using ChatGPT. Trust me on this. I've tried it for keywords. Like I'll just ask, like, give me keywords. It's gonna, out of 300 keywords, one time I did 300 keywords. Out of that, only 3 were useful. Okay, so I would rather just look at the competitors, all of these 3, right? Direct, adjacent, and alternative, and just look at their titles. You'll kind of basically figure out what are the kind of keywords that are working, and just from there you can just do some research, right? You don't have to use vidIQ though. You can just YouTube search the keyword. Okay, then also recommend creating a thumbnail swipe file, although not necessary. You don't have to, but I just recommend it. Then we jump into the most basic strategy plan. Okay, because we're done with the research, we're then gonna jump into content ideation, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Just a quick side note first, right? Here's what you want: a very basic strategy to look like for yourself. Basically, like for the same client, right, we would focus 80% of the content on getting people who are stuck below 10K a month, but not beginners. But the remaining will be content that helps anyone between 10K and 50K a month. So you see, 80% is more top of funnel and 20% is more middle and bottom of funnel, because you of course want to get views, right? But you don't want to get 100,000 views. You want to get 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 views, right? You want to hit the niche, the people who are searching for these topics. That's the goal, right? Because if you can predictably get in front of people who are looking for this, you can predictably get leads and sales. And this client, by the way, this one actually ended up getting about 600 leads, if I'm not mistaken, in the first month and a half of us doing this. First month and a half, about 600 leads. Yeah, that's right. 600 leads as in 600 people into his Facebook group, right? So Facebook group at the time was where he was collecting leads. And so this, the ideal, most basic strategy would be something like, 4 videos. If you're doing 8 videos a month, which is, you can decide for yourself, right? Whether you can do 1 video a week or 2 a week. I would recommend starting with 1 per week. But if you know the capacity, if you have 2 per week, 2 per week is ideal for sure, 100%, right? And if you do, regardless, this is the ratio you follow. 2 videos a month for SEO, or if you're doing 8 videos, then it's 4 videos a month for SEO. So these are, very tutorial based, very educational, how to evergreen kind of content, like, how to make 10K a month, right? Or how to sign clients, or how to book calls, or how to close in DMs, whatever, right? Very how to specific focused, how to do client acquisition, how to book calls, how to do sales calls, how to create content to attract inbound leads, whatever. Very, very how to, but around things that people are searching for, right? Don't go very niche with your how to. Nobody's going to be able to see it. Then 25% of your videos. So in this case, it's 2 videos if you're doing 8, or 1 video if you're doing 4, that are more to spark conversation. So that means that basically more unpopular opinions, if you have something that challenges common beliefs, you want to make videos around that basically, right? So challenge beliefs. Then another 25% can either be personal stories, or it can be a little entertaining. So it can be like challenge based, like I tried something for 7 days, here's what happened. Of course, related to your niche as much as possible, right? So 7-day challenges, 30-day challenges, or 1 hour, 2 hour, 5 hour, 10 hours challenges, whatever. Like, watch me start from zero and sell whatever, and offer in 1 hour, right? Watch me sign 5 clients in 3 hours, or whatever, right? Challenge based content. So these are kind of the videos that we did for him. I'll not go over it too much because whatever, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. Now that we have a basic strategy, let's come up with the exact video ideas using ChatGPT, okay? Because research without execution is just procrastination. And trust me, for people who have wasted time on their logo and their banner and research, me being one of them, none of it mattered until I started posting videos and started getting leads, right? So all the pre-planning is important, but don't spend more than 8 to 12 hours on your research phase. So now next, we'll cover exactly how to plan, filter, and structure the exact video ideas that turn views into revenue. But of course, views from the right people into revenue. So let's talk about content planning and ideation, right? Now, why this matters is because the more random your uploads are, the more random the results are. And the more planned, consistent, and strategic your videos are, the more predictable your growth is. So, for example, this guy has 11 million subscribers on his main channel, yet his new channel was struggling. And struggling, I mean like they were stuck at 15,000 subscribers or so. And this was a year ago. They were stuck at 15K. We just had one call about this channel because I was focusing on the main channel with them. We just had one call, and this is what the channel looked like over just a 3-month period afterwards. So it literally blasted into the atmosphere, and now it has over 1 million subscribers. But again, this is, somebody who's in the entertainment space. His goal is different, but I'm just saying that if you know what you're doing, right? And it's not like we changed everything. I was not like, put in 10 times more effort, blah, blah, blah. No, it's just we slightly changed the way we were targeting content and what content we were making. The genre of content we slightly changed. So these little insights, of course, I can understand these things as somebody who's, seen a lot of different niches. I know what works and what doesn't work, right? Overall. So don't treat YouTube as a creative outlet. Treat it as a strategic channel. Because if you treat it as a creative outlet, I'll just see what happens. I'm just doing it for the reps, right? I just want to put the reps in. I just want to get good at this. You're going to quit before you start seeing results, because results, at least in 2025 and beyond, are frankly not easy. Like really, realistically, it's going to take you 2 or 3 months to start seeing any results, no matter what you do. So you might as well do it properly so that you can cut that curve down to 2 months instead of it becoming 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, So yeah, let's now actually do the ChatGPT ideation workflow, okay? So the first step, and trust me when I say this, this is very, very, very important. Collect as much information about your offer and your journey as possible so that AI, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're going to use knows enough to help you. And this is important because you can't expect it to help you when it doesn't know anything. So for example, in my case, this is what I do. Look at my personal Notion. I have my offer broken down with ChatGPT. Of course, I just pasted my offer, right? And then my offer is step by step, which is what helped basically package this video, or at least, give an outline for this video. By the way, this video is scripted by AI for the most part, and I'll show you exactly how that's done as well, even though this is a fucking long video, right? Then I have my personal story, which I wrote myself, not AI. It's very, 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 very long, but that is the point. It's very long. There's some inserts from AI, but for the most part, it is me writing. So imagine if I just paste all of this information into ChatGPT or whatever AI, even if it's a new AI like Claude or whatever, right? Or Grok, whatever. All it needs is this information to get all the context it requires about me. So paste that information and also say something like this. I'm an entrepreneur who will be using YouTube to scale my business by attracting my target audience through my offer. So this is do it yourself, done for you, done with you, what kind of service, product, whatever. And I'm going to bring them X result, right? That's what you do. Below is some information about my journey, my offer, and my ideal client persona, and you paste all the information. Now, based on this information, give me a detailed analysis of everything you understand about my offer, services, personal story, and target audience that can be used to come up with content ideas or write detailed scripts in my voice. Now, you can do this in separate. If you have too much information like this is just too much information. It's going to generalize it. I did it in 3 or 4 times, right? So it's, my ChatGPT bot on my content is trained on this information. But I have here's my story, break everything down. Okay. Here's my offer, break everything down. Here's my landing page, break everything down, right? So it's kind of like that. So it has a lot more information. That's the first step. And the second step is where the magic happens. You want to take your 3 to 4 direct competitors, 2 to 3 adjacent ones, and 2 to 3 alternative competitors. You want to screenshot their top 12 videos, titles, and thumbnails. Now, this will look something like this. This is actually a client of mine. But let's say I want to make videos about in the AI niche, right? Which is what this guy does. So, you want to basically just screenshot, paste, and you want to do this for all of those people, right? So you have 3 to 4 direct competitors, 2 to 3 adjacent ones, and 2 to 3 alternative ones. So you basically end up having around 8 to 10, 7 to 10 whatever competitors, and you paste them all here, the images, and with those images you give it this prompt, right? And you can screenshot this if you want, or do whatever with it. Or if you want, you can DM me or Instagram or X or wherever. I'll send this to you. So the prompt is that our goal is to analyze direct, adjacent, and alternative competitors. Attached are the top 12 performing videos for each of them, blah, blah, blah. Give some context. Now, based on this data, here's what you want it to, which is the most important part, right? It'll identify the similarities between the top performers and worst performers of direct competitors, then adjacent ones, then alternative ones. For each of those, it will highlight patterns in video formats like tutorials, case studies, interviews. What are the exact formats of content? It'll analyze titles and thumbnails that resonate the most with the audience, and finally compare the direct competitors with the adjacent and alternative ones to see what are the hidden gaps or opportunities. This is extremely important. Typically, when I used to do this before AI, it would take me hours. Trust me, this whole research process and strategy process and ideation would take me at least 30 to 40 hours per client. And now, thanks to AI, I can do it within 10 to 15 hours at max. That sometimes even 5 to 7 hours if I really know the niche, maybe even 3 to 4 hours, But this is what you're gonna do, and you're gonna get, trust me, when you get this back, it's all you need. This is your strategy. This is what works. This is a breakdown of what works, and this is a breakdown of what you need to do. Very simple. And then we go a step further and we ask ChatGPT for ideas. We're like, awesome. Now, based on all this information we gathered and uncovered, generate 30 video ideas. But you have to very, very, very clearly tell it how to generate ideas. You say something like, remember, we need to use exact same format. Words, grammar, punctuation, capitalization, tonality, pacing, and only change what's absolutely necessary to fit my offer and topics and frameworks and story and ideal client persona. Right? So this whole prompt, again, you can copy this, You can ask it to write 10 of these videos that are more similar to the ideas from adjacent, 10 that are similar to alternative, and 10 other ideas in similar formats, but they are solely based on offer and ICP and frameworks and story and gaps in the market. So it will then come up with 30 video ideas for you. And then you can repeat this 3 or 4 times. You can give feedback like, I can't do X, I can't do Y, I can't do number 5, I can't do number 20. And you can give feedback, or I don't like this, or I've already thought about this, or my ideal clients won't like it, whatever. And you can then ask for 3 or 4 times to keep, give more ideas. You will end up having 120 ideas, or at least minimum 100 ideas, and boom. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind, some ideas will not match your business model, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. So once you have figured out your ideas, it's given you 100, 120, whatever ideas. You can even go up to get 1,000 ideas, which I would not recommend, of course, but you can do if you really want to go fancy. Now, after you have found those ideas, which is the first part, but how do you filter them? Because not every idea deserves a video. So what I would recommend doing is write all the raw ideas in one place. It's a Google Sheet, Doc, Notion, whatever. Like I personally use Notion and it looks a bit something like this. New video ideas, right? So some of them I will highlight because I like them. Some of them are just, I have 60 something ideas, right? It's quite a lot of ideas, but that is because I have been thinking of ideas for like 3 years at this point. And these are the most filtered down versions. Plus, out of even these, I always keep looking at what's working, what's not working for people and stuff like that, and then filter down even further. But this is basically the 3-part very simple filter you can apply anytime. First one, how relevant is this to your ideal client, right? Does this idea make your target audience build more trust in your ability to solve their specific problems? Think back to your best clients. You think about like what questions did they ask before they bought? What aha moments did they receive once they worked with you? What objections did they raise on sales calls? Once you think about that, you'll basically be able to filter out the ideas that are not hyper relevant to your specific ideal client. Because the thing is that it might be like your competitors target people who make no money and they want to make $3,000 or $5,000 a month. But your offer can be taking people from 5K to 20K. Your ICP will be very, very, very different. So you've got to think about that, right? How much of a match are these ideas? You can't say step by step how to get your first 5 clients. It doesn't work for them, right? And nobody cares about step by step how to get your next 5 clients. But you can talk about step by step how to get clients from Facebook ads, step by step how to get clients from outreach, that you can do. But when you do very beginner friendly ideas, sometimes they will not match with your offer. So you need to think about these 3 questions. And the second thing is business aligned. Does it tie to your offer or funnel type? Let me show you a little bit more of this because, well, I have frankly way too many things built out in my life that I have wasted too much time on. But this is one thing that is very helpful. Okay, so let me zoom in. We have somewhere along here. Yeah. Here we go. The YouTube strategy matrix, because there's 10 types of YouTube strategy and not everything is for everyone, right? So if you sell a new solution, so this is something that nobody has ever heard of before, this is imagine like the first time the idea of building an agency ever came up. Right, new solution. Or if you sell a new vehicle for an existing solution, right? So you repackage an agency, but it's kind of different. Your way is kind of different. Maybe it's a SMMA, right? Social media marketing agency. When it first became a thing, it would be a new vehicle for an existing solution. Then if you sell an existing solution. So now if you sell social media marketing agencies today in 2025, it's everybody knows what it is. So that's the first category of things you need to look at. Then you need to look at your delivery mechanism. Do you sell luxury services, so real estate, speaking engagements, luxury watches, whatever? Do you sell done for you? So it's agency services, partnerships. Do you sell done with you? So coaching, consulting, or do you sell do-it-yourself stuff, right? So courses, community, you have a SaaS. Now, each of these have different strategies. And the reason for that is because, let's say I have a course where I teach people how to grow on YouTube. If that was the case, which used to be, but not anymore, it would be very, very, very stupid of me to make a video like this. Because then I have no fucking reason for people to buy from me because they can just watch this and this is free and it has everything they need. I mean, everything they need in, not exactly, but like it has 50% of the things I teach, at least in the most condensed form. It might not be super detailed in its insights, but it's got quite a lot of information. Enough information for them to act on their own. Therefore, having an offer like that doesn't align with my content strategy. Now, my content strategy, if you look at, is all about teaching everything. The reason that is because I sell a done for you service where you can teach everything because you're selling the implementation, no matter whether you're selling an existing solution or a new vehicle, right? Now, in my case, I sell more of a new vehicle for an existing solution because yes, YouTube growth, agencies and stuff exist, but for the most part, they're all more for virality and entertainment based content, MrBeast style. There's very few people that run agencies for entrepreneurs, business owners, SaaS products, B2B. So I exist in the new vehicle for existing solution. Now, if I was in fact selling a coaching consulting offer, I would not teach everything for free. I would instead give free insights. I would teach my philosophies because I could change false beliefs in people's head, or I could just in general change beliefs and manipulate them, which I don't like to do, but some people do that. And the reason for that is because I am not selling everything, because I'm not selling implementation of results. I'm selling personalization of results. The personalized information is what people are going to be paying me for. So I need to teach them philosophies. I need to change their beliefs. I need to also show them that I'm competent by, of course, showing proof, which regardless what you have to show proof. But especially when you're selling philosophy based content, because you're not giving away information in terms of value. You're not teaching everything for free. You're giving them tiny nuggets of information here and there, which only you can acquire because of the experience you have. It becomes a whole different ballgame. And similarly, it works in for do-it-yourself services as well, where basically, you want to make these kind of videos. Now, there's also other aspects to this which I won't go into because it's a bit complicated, but you just want to understand whether it aligns to your offer and funnel type in this main regard, right? If you sell anything luxury, basically, typically you can just give everything for free because you're selling exclusivity and relationships. You can give everything for free. You can, create more behind the scenes content, more lifestyle content because you're selling relationships and exclusivity. Whereas with some of the others, you're selling different things. So you've got to think about it in that accordance, right? The final thing is packaging strength. So think about it like this. Can you turn the idea into a strong title and thumbnail based on proof that this idea or similar ideas have worked for others consistently? What this simply means is that if you have an idea, search it up on YouTube. Okay, so let's say I want how to start SMMA, right? Let's say that's an idea that I want to make a video about. Now, what I'm going to do is very simply, I will just search up on YouTube how to start SMMA. And I'll filter by videos. And I'll filter by this year, really. How many views are people actually getting? Iman Ghazi is not even getting that many views on this. Nobody's really getting views like crazy. So it's not a great topic to make a video about. But it used to be when SMMAs were a new thing. So you've got to understand the context always. That's the thing. You want to look at how is the performance recently and look at the titles and thumbnails of the top performers for that or similar videos. Now, I don't necessarily mean you need to look at again your direct competitors. You can also look at like how to start, what is it called? AI automation agency, AIAA, right? So for this guy, how to start AIAA works for this guy too, because it's a new niche. But that's the thing, you want to understand the context of the packaging possible. If Iman Ghazi with his really good packaging did not get views on this video, you would most likely not be able to get views on this video today. But if you have a different business model like AI automation agency, you can, however, copy Iman Ghazi's thumbnail style and title style, but just for AI automation agencies. You get where I'm coming from? So your packaging needs to be proven in the sense that very similar niches to yours have consistently seen good results with a title and thumbnail for a video like this. Therefore, it's possible to make a good title and thumbnail. That's it. And this requires manual effort to validate whether each idea works or is a hallucination by ChatGPT, because most video ideas by ChatGPT are not good, no matter how much you prompt it, because trust me, I've tried it for thousands of video ideas over the last couple of years and it's not good. So if you are, however, just ripping off videos from direct or adjacent or alternative competitors, then that's not a problem, because no matter what you do, these are proven titles and thumbnails, right? Because that's what you're feeding ChatGPT, that's what it's giving you back essentially. So if you're taking in exact ideas from them, then you should not have any problem. But this is for ideas that you're taking from, apart from that, your own thoughts, your own processes, or your ChatGPT comes up with creative ideas because you give it a different prompt or something, right? So you want to know how to validate them. This is the way. And this way you should be able to eliminate 70 to 80% of ideas. Now, even if you don't do all of this, there are 5 core foundational video types that work across all niches that you can repeat forever. I would not recommend it, but you can. So one of them is the unique mechanism or offer explanation idea. So this is basically a video that explains your unique process, framework, or philosophy. You want to show you why your method is different and better than everything else out there. So an example of this is, fuck it, here's how I made $107,000 with a tiny YouTube channel. So you can have different title templates like, fuck it, here's how I did specific result with unexpected method, or how I made X dollars from niche with just small number of thing, or why common advice is completely wrong and what actually works, or how I added $X in revenue where the thing most people ignore. Most people do common mistake. Here's the one shift that changed everything, right? So that's one format. Then there are success stories or authority building. These can be stories of yourself or your clients. So for example, I advised MrBeast and I made a video about that, which of course did well for my channel size, right? And there are some title templates here. You can screenshot them if you want. Then objection handling, common mistakes, or problem solution breakdown. So these are videos that are specifically mainly for handling objections before they even get on a call with you, right? So that's the goal, is to pre-handle objection. And these are, videos that are talking more about the false beliefs people have about your industry or something along those lines. For example, most people in my niche think that they can run YouTube ads instead of making organic videos. I broke that belief by showing them how YouTube ads destroy your channel. Now, even though this title doesn't position this video as a case study, the video is all about a client and how he was struggling and how I helped him fix his channel. So you can also make these kind of videos very simply. You can combine some formats as well sometimes, but the core most important thing is, focus on the objection handling part, because that's the main thing, right? And think about the benefit of doing this. If you just make a video like this, you can not only use it to post on YouTube, you can also use it to, if an objection comes up when you're trying to book a call or your appointment setter is DMing somebody, they can send this video to them. And even better, you can add this video to your pre-call warm-up sequence on Calendly or whatever, Go High Level calendar, whatever you use. And what that's going to do is, somebody who, before they get on a call with you or your team, whatever, they're going to have this objection already handled because you've sent them a video to watch to handle that objection. So you see how you can basically just, if nothing else with YouTube, just use it to fix your funnel. And then fourth part is the breakdown or tear down kind of videos. So these are videos where you can talk about big names in your industry, right? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? Again, some title templates are here. So for example, I made a video on how Mark Tilbury is destroying his YouTube competitors in 2 years. Or I made several videos on Alex Hormozy, right? Because it just works. But ideally, you want to only do these on really popular people, or you can also do it on common advice in your niche, right? So for example, if in the fitness niche, you have a completely different belief, like you can eat pizzas and burgers, then, that's a good enough thing to talk about. How to lose 20 kilos or 20 pounds, whatever, while eating burgers and pizzas, while ordering from Uber Eats, right? Whatever. So you can basically also objection handle common advice or tear down or break down common advice. Then the final main kind of content is the common sense content. This is broad but engaging. So this is a kind of content that casts like a more wide net. It's more top of funnel. These are more general but still attract the right kind of audience. You want to target more of the pain point at the more core level. So for example, I made this video which was make YouTube videos 4x faster. The 80-20 rule of YouTube. And this video, it doesn't say it's for entrepreneurs, even though it is. But that's because I'm thinking about the deepest psychology of the entrepreneur. What are they really thinking? They think that YouTube is hard, which is also why I'm making this video. But that video that I made, people think that YouTube is hard. So I made this video on why YouTube can be easy. And the thing is that the 80-20 rule or the Pareto principle is something that every entrepreneur is familiar with. So to them, it makes sense. They know exactly what they're going to get. But I only know this because I understand my audience as well, or sometimes better than they understand themselves. So those are the 5 main type of video types. And then I'll give you some more ideas that are recently working really well to attract your ICP. There are certain video buckets that are doing well. So the full course kind of video, right? So full YouTube scriptwriting course, high ticket sales training course, email marketing course, Facebook ads course, Facebook ads advice in 1 hour, 21 minutes, cold email advice, starting a clothing brand in simple, free course. So the free course or the long course type of videos are doing really well. That's why I'm doing this video. Then another one is the how-to tutorial. So it's with a niche keyword. So how to grow your business YouTube channel, how to create a VSL, how to get unlimited leads for free, how to personalize cold emails, how to Klaviyo, whatever, complete email marketing flows. You get the point. There's a bunch of examples here. Okay. Then there's the best strategy for niche, best Loom cold email strategy, best LinkedIn content strategy, best LinkedIn marketing strategy, only LinkedIn content strategy, best dropshipping product research method, Loom personalized cold email strategy, best Facebook ad strategy, right? You get the point. Then there is if I was starting from scratch, if I was starting e-commerce from scratch, this is what I do. If I was starting an agency, this is what I do. If I was starting freelancing, this is what I do. If I was starting LinkedIn, this is what I do, right? Okay. Then there's the client case study videos. These obviously work. You basically study your clients and show what the results they're getting. Very simple. Then there's a broad authority building where keyword is trending person or brand's name. Doesn't have to be necessarily. Sometimes it's also just I did a crazy thing, right? So I sent 1,000 cold emails. I took Virgil's advice. Watch me start and sell a service in 10 hours. I studied 1,000 founders on LinkedIn. I made 10,000 LinkedIn posts. How I made 150K a month with a tiny personal brand. I sent a million cold emails, right? So, I was closer for Alex Hormozy, right? You just get the point. Then there's the new way, okay? The new way to do Facebook ads. The new way of cold email. New way of cold email. And there's some variations of this that work. Like LinkedIn is now on easy mode. Anyone can blow up. And the same is going on for different things. Then there's the don't start X, do Y instead. Don't start WAP clipping, do this instead. Or don't start an AIAA, start LGA instead. Then there's authorities' advice on niche. Brutally honest cold email advice from Hormozy, right? Hormozy's advice on lead gen. Hormozy's advice on content. Hormozy advice on LinkedIn. Hormozy advice on sales, you get the point. Then there's finally the authority strategy. You break down somebody who's bigger than you, way bigger than you, and their strategy. This is what I was calling the breakdown videos, right? So how Gordon Ramsay's old student keeps breaking YouTube, or how Iman Ghazi made $40 million from YouTube. Alex Hormozy's LinkedIn strategy. Alex Hormozy's lead gen strategy. Alex Hormozy's cold email. Alex Hormozy's email marketing strategy, right? So Alex Hormozy works. That's one big takeaway. But yeah, that's basically how you do this. Now, I would just recommend at the end to decide your cadence. So, you have a calendar schedule. Decide your cadence, whether it's one video a week or 2 videos a week. And from your pool of the, hundreds of ideas, you would have narrowed down to 15 maybe. So select the 4 or 8 for month 1 based on whichever ones are most proven to work. Not the ones you like the most, but the ones most proven to work, that have the most proof of titles and thumbnails like this that have worked for your niche and other similar niches. Because just now I showed you some foundational video types, 5 core ones that work timelessly, then 10 that are working right now and will probably work for another year or so. And these 15 essentially are all great. Now you just want to decide which ones you want to do for your industry and your niche based on which ones work in your industry and your niche the most. So now that you've got this calendar filled with ideas that are validated and strategic and aligned with your ICP, the next step is to choose the title and the thumbnail in such a way that the right people can't help but click. Because the thing is that it doesn't matter how good your idea is if nobody ends up watching, and nobody is going to watch if nobody's going to click. Therefore, the click matters the most. But the idea being good is a core fundamental of the click happening. Because if an idea is bad, you cannot make a good title and thumbnail for it. Therefore, the idea is the first thing. Then we go into how to make the title and thumbnail such that people cannot help but click. So why does the packaging of your video matter? Imagine you enter a library like this with 10,000 books and you're asked to only pick one book in 20 minutes. No matter what happens, you will judge a book by its cover. So it's the author's job to make their book's cover more compelling than every other book it will stand next to. Because having a good book doesn't matter if no one reads it. And in today's ultra-competitive landscape of YouTube, viewers decide within microseconds which video to click. And the science says that they choose between 0.3 seconds. And so if they don't watch your video, they will watch someone else's video. So the only way to get them to pay attention to your video is to grab their attention and convince them that their time is best spent watching your video instead of any other video your video might be placed next to. Your video could be placed next to Alex Hormozy or MrBeast or anybody else, because that's just how YouTube works. It's a zero-sum game, right? So the truth is that a great video can flop due to a poor thumbnail and title, whereas a decent video can explode due to an exceptional thumbnail and title. Because having a good video doesn't matter if no one clicks it. The same way that having a good book doesn't matter if no one reads it. So making the right thumbnail and titles alone is the reason why I'm able to make $65,000 with just 15 videos for my business. Because the thumbnail captures attention, the title gives context to the promise in the thumbnail, and the intro of the video begins delivering on that promise. That is what the packaging is, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So let's first quickly talk about some packaging mistakes, which in my language I call the TIT mistakes, the big TIT mistakes, because the TIT stands for title, intro, thumbnail. The reason I put them in that order is because you need to write them in that order. You plan the title first as the video idea, like we talked about earlier. Then you write the intro of the video based on the title, and then you design the thumbnail, based on the whole script and everything. So let's look at the biggest TIT mistakes that cost you views and momentum. The first one is not thinking of video ideas as titles. We already talked about this, right? Because your video idea is your title. Don't think about my video idea as like a 10-sentence thing. No, the idea is not that. That is the summary or explanation of the video, but that's a whole different ball game. That's not what we are thinking about when we think about ideas, because we have to think about it as what the viewer will see, not what is going to happen. And I can show you an example of this from a past client of ours who they make videos in French now, but back then they were making some entertainment based videos like a year ago in English. Okay, so this video alone, sneaking into the F1 Grand Prix as a fake driver. Now this video, trust me on this when I say this video is a fucking banger video that could have gotten 10 times more views. But before they started working with us, they uploaded this video right before they started working with us, and it has 84,000 views. And the reason is because it says sneaking into F1 Grand Prix as a fake driver. Okay, I'm just giving you principles and examples. So this is the biggest example I have from my experience. So what do you think when you think about this video title? Sneaking into F1 as a fake driver. Or there are other titles which was sneaking into F1 Grand Prix as Charles Leclerc, which is even more niche. It's just the F1 driver he's pretending to be here, okay? You think that he's going to sneak into the F1 as a fake driver. Or you think that he's going to fake Charles Leclerc prank security shutdown, okay? So you think that he's going to shut down the security outside the venue. But do you know what actually happens in the video? And you can see it if you skip to the end. Is he not just sneaks in, even the security thinks he's actually an F1 driver. Not just that, he ends up meeting the F1 drivers themselves, because that's how much clearance he got from security. So that is the crazy part of the video. And not just that, he ended up meeting the actual driver who he was pretending to be. And the F1 staff allowed him to get to the most secure part of the arena. And that can only happen because, well, they did a good video, but title doesn't represent the video. Now, in their case, it's different, right? Because they don't know what the outcome is going to be of the video until they film it. But after they have filmed it, they need to change the title to represent what actually happened in the video. Because it's not about, oh, this is a banger video. No, it has to be a banger title and thumbnail as well, or else it won't matter. Then another mistake is creating thumbnails too late in the process. Now, thumbnails are not an afterthought. You know, you can't just slap them together after the video is complete, because the thumbnail and title work together to stop the scroll. And if you don't plan the thumbnail early, it won't align with your title or hook. Now, the easiest way to do this is basically what I already explained to you earlier, right? Is to screenshot your top competitors, so that when you're essentially copying a video idea from them, you're going to have a thumbnail that you already have as a reference for what ideally you would want to copy some elements from, right? Don't have to copy, but replicate some parts of. So at least you have a reference image already there. That's really important. Then another mistake people make, and a lot of people make this, is cluttering and overcomplicating thumbnails. So this means that adding too much text, too many elements, or irrelevant visuals to thumbnails. This irrelevant part is extremely important because most people end up doing it. Because thumbnails are processed in 0.3 seconds. So the more complex it is, the lesser the person understands it. And the human mind is very simple. If it doesn't understand something, it's not going to be like, oh my god, I need to know what this thumbnail is. No, it's going to skip past because it can't even comprehend. So you want to keep it simple with one or two focus elements. You want to keep it clear in what is the promise, and you want to keep it intriguing without giving everything away. I'll give you some examples from a client of ours. This client, they are a Bitcoin only show. They upload daily videos about Bitcoin news. If I scroll down to before we started working with them, which has been a while, what you'll notice in the thumbnails is that they were way more convoluted, way more complicated. Okay, and we're about to get there. We're almost there. When they were making thumbnails, you see what their big mistake is here? That there's a lot going on. They have a Nickelodeon looking logo, which doesn't mean anything to the target audience unless they know what this logo is. They know the brand. Therefore, anybody who doesn't know the brand will never watch. And that was their big issue. Trust me. When we did a deep dive on their channel, the issue was that they were getting extremely great clicks, extremely great average view duration. But that's because only people who were subscribed were watching. No new audience was coming in. It was like abysmally low. Like 95% or 90% of viewers were people who were subscribed to them, which is terrible. It's extremely bad. You don't want that. That's why they were stuck at, some videos get 4,000, some get 5,000, whatever views, right? And so we changed it. We simplified it. We, instead of putting their brand logo, we said, put the Bitcoin logo and make the text not the color it is, because it contrasts well, but it doesn't attract the right target audience. And it's just a lot of text. Some of them have like, look at this. Money problems require Bitcoin solutions. Like, I'm not even going to read all that much to be like, should I care about this thumbnail? No, I'm going to see the person and I'm going to be like, do I care or not? It's very simple, right? Or here I can read worth 1.5 billion. This is one of the first thumbnails we made with them. So you can see the difference. This was their last video together with themselves, and this is with us. This changes everything. You can see the immediate views spike. 16K, 38K, This one didn't work. It was exploration style thumbnail. It just didn't work. But you see, on average, their views went up, right? Of course, some videos are good and some are bad. That's just how the world works, you know. It's human psychology at the end, right? And it's also about who else is making content and what content they're making and stuff like that. But you can see their average went up to the point they started getting 20,000, 30,000 kind of views in just a span of, well, a few days of changing this. And that's because the more, and then you see after that they changed it back to their own style, but yes, it worked a bit, but it didn't work as well as what is working for them now. If you look at what is working for them now and how many views they're getting, well, the simpler the better, right? It's very, very simple. Look at this. The earth, what the fuck just happened as text and Bitcoin logo and some guy's face. Boom. Or if you look at, frankly, if I just go to the most popular videos, it's abundantly clear what works. Look at all of these. Most of them at least are simple in nature. Right? There's a few that are complicated. There's a few that, like final warning, $1 million Bitcoin is coming with Samsung now, right? But that could work because of the person, But for the most part, you see the stuff that has worked the best is the least complicated looking, or it's easy to comprehend. Even if it's complicated in what is going on, the important parts are easy to comprehend. I mean, the most popular one for that matter is the easiest, simplest looking thumbnail. Like there's nothing you can overcomplicate or overthink, or you'll be like, I don't know what this means. No, this is about Bitcoin. This is about Jeff Booth, and they're hiding something, which means it's like a prediction or something. Yeah. And that's exactly what the video is. Jeff Booth reveals how much Bitcoin you need. Very simple. Or here, $100 million Bitcoin. Only 2.5 million left. $1 million Bitcoin. So it's very, very, very simple who this is for and what they're going to get from watching. Then a major mistake people make is ignoring audience pain points or desires. So this is just very simply like if the audience doesn't immediately see what is in it for them, what's in it for me, WIIFM, what's in it for me? I don't care that you made $1 million or $10 million or $1 billion. I don't care that you booked 10,000 sales calls. What do I get? You ever see a video in your feed titled, I made $1 billion. Just that's it. You are less likely to click than, I made $1 billion, just copy me. I made $1 billion, step by step how to copy me. Or something like that, right? Or here are 5 things I learned after I made $1 billion. Okay, so now the viewer knows what they get. And this is the thing that most people end up making videos like, I went from broke to rich. Okay, but why should the viewer care? I went from nothing to 6-pack abs. Okay, but why should the viewer care? What are they gonna get? Because imagine if you make a video like this, but you just talk like, I'm so happy I made $1 billion and I was very sad before and I'm very happy now. And I'm so happy I have 6-pack abs. That shit doesn't work. People wanna be like, okay, but what can I do? I want that. That is your video. That's what your content has to be, right? It's what the viewer gets. That is why we identified the pain points and desires of the niche early on, because we can reflect them clearly in the title, the thumbnail, and the rest of the content, really. Then the next one is not checking how your tits compare to others targeting the same audience. Because if your title and thumbnail aren't better than the competitors, you will lose clicks. So you got to research competitors to identify gaps and opportunities. Now, let's look at these 2 videos, for example. Which of these 2 videos do you think have more views and why? Okay, so the left side says the difference between training for size versus strength. The right side is about strength versus size workouts, which training is the best. They're both the same video. I mean, not the same video, but the same content, the same topic, right? The difference is the thumbnail. On one side, it is abundantly clear. This is size versus strength. Even if you don't read anything, you see a massive difference. Whereas the right side doesn't. So now you tell me, which thumbnail is visually clearer, more intriguing, and makes me want to read the title? If I did not read the title first, which thumbnail would make me want to read the title? And then which title creates the most curiosity or promises you the best result? It's very simple. And therefore, even though both of these channels have the same subscriber count and they uploaded the video around the same time, one video outperformed the other. Very simple. Even though the video on the left, in my opinion, is very different in the sense of the video on the left is just a guy sitting like this and talking. He's not showing you size or strength. He just has a PowerPoint presentation type shit and he's just presenting. Whereas the guy on the right is actually showing you some lifestyle visuals and stuff. So you would think the right side would work better because it's a better video, right? It's more aligned with the thumbnail. No, thumbnail matters in the sense of it conveys the promise, right? And we'll go into more of the thumbnail factors and stuff. Another example of the same thing. They both have the exact same title. How to buy 10 rental properties in 5 years using the BRRR strategy. Okay. And the thumbnail text is also the same. The only difference is how the thumbnail is presented. On one side, it is you see houses, you see clear text, you see a guy who's happy. On the other side, you see a guy side-eyeing something. You don't know what this is. When I first saw this thumbnail, I thought it was a pizza for some reason. I genuinely do not know what this represents because it doesn't tell me what I should be expecting, what I should understand. It doesn't make it abundantly clear in the simplest way possible for me. I will never even be like, oh, what does this mean? Let me just open this thumbnail and like, what is 1, 2, 3, 4? I will never do that. It took me 10 seconds bare minimum to understand that this is 10 houses. So it's just for no reason unnecessarily complicated. This video has 100 times more views than this video on the right side. So now let's actually talk about how to make good thumbnails in the sense of what are the things you need to do, because we talked about some big mistakes, right, that most people make. Then we'll talk about the packaging value equation, which in my opinion is the most important thing that you would have seen in a very, 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 very long time. And this will help you with, well, every aspect of your content creation. So the packaging value equation. Now this is something that I essentially copied from Alex Hormozi, but really made it my own. It's a very, very long document, but I'll just summarize it for you. The packaging value equation is basically how I see the title and thumbnail working together, right? So how they communicate the perceived value of the video to the viewer. This is only for educational content, of course. So how I calculate it as is the dream outcome, which is basically how appealing is the result promised. How appealing, yeah? Not is there a result? No, there has to be a result. But how appealing is that result? That is what we are calculating. Then the perceived likelihood of achievement of that outcome, which is how believable and attainable does the outcome seem. That seem part is very important. The perceived likelihood, not the actual likelihood. Because I can say, make $1 billion in 30 days and you will not believe me. Even if it might be something that you might be able to teach. You'll not believe me because it's just not, it goes way beyond, your comprehension of what's possible. Right? Beginner's guide on making $1 billion in 30 days. You're not going to believe me. No matter what I say, no matter what I do, no matter who I am. Even if Jeff Bezos said it, you will not believe. But if Jeff Bezos said it, you will believe it more than if I said it. So believability. Then we have the effort or sacrifice. So this is basically how much effort or commitment is required to get the outcome, the promised outcome. So it's all about the outcome. The outcome and then the likelihood of achieving the outcome and then how much commitment or effort is required for the outcome and then finally the time delay, which is how much time is required to get the outcome. So everything is related to the outcome. The outcome comes first. It's the most primary thing. But mathematically, if you want to calculate, you can do it as a dream outcome plus, believability, perceived likelihood of achievement, minus effort and sacrifice, minus time delay. And that's what basically says how valuable your video packaging is or how valuable your video is perceived to be based on the packaging. So this is Alex Hormozi's factors. Now the reason I have plus and minus is because this is part of a larger formula for me. Way larger formula, way bigger than you would expect. And it looks a bit something like this. I have some factors for how to measure your idea, how to measure your thumbnail, how to measure your title. And then the packaging value equation, which is what you're seeing now, is a whole different ball game by itself. Then I have something else called market size, and it's a whole mathematically calculatable formula to just know how many views you're going to get from the right target audience. But I won't talk about that because it's very, very complicated. That itself could be like a 12-hour video. Instead, what we'll talk about is just the packaging value equation for now. So you can also use this in the original form as Hormozi says, multiplication and division factors. You can. It's just I prefer to use it this way. So let's talk about this, right? Dream outcome. Basically, it just measures how strong the promise is to the average viewer. The stronger, deeper, and more aspirational the promise, the higher the score, right? So 1 point is something that's unmotivating and low aspirational value. So something that's vague, technical, informational, small scale, or non-emotional. So example, understanding how AI works. I don't care about that outcome. It's not the best outcome. It's not my dream, right? It's not the highest factor in the outcome scale. If there was a scale from 1 to 5, you would not be like, this is the outcome I want the most, Learn Microsoft Excel formulas. 3 ways to get better focus. It's not the strongest outcome for you. The outcome for you is not getting focused. The outcome is to make money or to become whatever, fitter, whatever. How to write better emails. Okay, but that doesn't mean much to me emotionally. It's not an emotional outcome. Because the viewers will say, okay, and just because something is useful doesn't mean it's motivating people to care. Most useful content is not desirable. And that is where most educational content sits. Most people's content is like how to blank, how to use AI, how to learn Microsoft Excel, how to get better focus, how to write better emails. Very unmotivating. I don't have a motivational reason to care about this outcome. Then we have 2 points. So this is something that's interesting but lower stakes, right? So This could be like how I made $500 selling stickers and you can copy me. How I got my first freelancing client and you can copy me. How I saved $300 a month with ChatGPT and you can do the same, or how to save $300 a month with ChatGPT. Okay. Now you have a reason to care because this might be helpful, right? So, not bad, maybe helpful. Then we have 3 points. So this is something that's more desirable and with a clearer payoff. So like how to make 10K a month with YouTube. 4 points, something more aspirational and status shifting. Now just remember that for the most part, almost anybody and almost everybody will be at 3 points for dream outcome. And you have to understand this because most people make content that is desirable, not aspirational. Aspirational is like make 100K a month, aspiration. Then finally we go into something that I've very rarely ever seen anybody achieve, which is ultimate dream. 5 points in ultimate dream outcome. This is something that is spoken to you in language that you yourself have never thought about. This is important. Think of a video like, Alex Hormozi's most popular video. How to get so rich, you question the meaning of making money. This hits you so deep when you think about that. How to get so rich, you question the meaning of making money. That is an ultimate dream. Something people don't even comprehend or think about. It's an ultimate dream. It's not an aspiration. I don't want to make 100K a month, 1 million a month, whatever. Ultimate dream. Nobody has even thought about it at that level that they want that. But inherently, that's exactly what everybody wants. So ultimate dream. Then we have the perceived likelihood of achievement. So this is believability, right? How believable is an outcome? Because I can say make $1 billion. How to make $1 billion? Guaranteed. I will say guaranteed. You will still be like, that's pretty questionable. I don't believe you. Especially if I'm making this video. But if Jeff Bezos made the video, believability goes up. You're like, that's 3 points. That's believable. Right? In the middle. Believable. You won't say it's almost certain that I'll get the outcome. You won't say it's inevitable I'll get the outcome. Absolutely not. It's not very easy to get to that stage with the outcome like how to make $1 billion. Whereas if I say how to make $10,000 a month in 30 days, in 7 days, in 15 days, you might believe it, but I can do subtle, smart things to make you believe it more. I can say in the thumbnail, just copy this. It only takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes a day. That makes me like, oh, really? That seems pretty easy. Now you'll see how some of these factors get convoluted a little bit with each other, right? But no, actually, let's restart with perceived likelihood of achievement again. So perceived likelihood of achievement. This is basically how believable is the outcome, right? As we talked about. Now I'll show you some examples of this, the believability of an outcome, and kind of looks something like this. Something that's sketchy, unbelievable, or vague, right? So this is something that feels too fake, too easy, or too good to be true. If I say make $1 billion, if I say how to make $1 billion, you will not trust me because you know for a fact I don't have $1 billion. I don't even have $1 million in the bank, right? So you cannot trust me on an outcome like that because you're just like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. I don't know who this guy is. He probably doesn't have $1 billion. And how to ensure you never give people a reason to believe is give them no visible path to the result. So I could say how to make $1 billion and the thumbnail could just be how to make $1 billion. Or the thumbnail could be the image of a blueprint, step by step blueprint. You're going to believe the blueprint one way more because you're like, oh, it seems like he's actually given steps. Even though the outcome itself is not believable, but there's some amount of trust acquired in the outcome because of that. I have authority. So if you lack authority, which is what I said, you're going to end up not getting people a reason to believe that there is a possibility of achieving the outcome. Whereas if I am Jeff Bezos and I say how to make $1 billion and I show you a blueprint, you're way more likely to believe it because it has authority. It has a case study, which is Jeff Bezos himself, and it gives you a reason to trust because it's Jeff Bezos himself. But for the most part, if you have a 1 point thing which is sketchy, unbelievable, or vague, it's going to be something that sounds scammy or wishful thinking, something that lacks authority, numbers, case studies, or trust cues, has no visible path, feels too easy, too good to be true, too fake, right? So it's make $1 million without working. Get ripped while eating pizza every day. I don't believe that. Or you can have thumbnail which has random stock images or AI generated fluff content. By AI generated fluff, I mean, the typical AI generated looking stuff. I don't trust it, especially for a strong outcome, because I will be skeptic. I will scroll past. I will not believe. Then there's the questionable but possible. So the result is technically possible but feels unlikely. The process is unclear and the thumbnail doesn't help. It might rely on luck, edge cases, or extreme skill. Thumbnail might not show transformation or proof. Let's say if I say how to go from fat to rip in 3 months, how to lose 100 pounds in 6 months, 1 year, whatever. And I show you a visual transformation. Fat person, the same person, right? Go from fat to skinny. Whether it's a picture of myself, a client, whatever, right? Versus if I just say in the thumbnail, like, go from fat to skinny. Which one do you trust more? It's very obvious, right? It's the one that shows you proof and transformation. So you just want to basically do that. You want to think about these factors as, well, people will only believe something if it seems possible. That's why even if I know how to make $1 billion, I will never make a video how to make $1 billion. I'll make how to make $10,000 in 7 days. How to make $10,000 in 3 days. How to make $100,000 in 1 month. But that's way too high for most people. Most people do not believe that's possible. How to make an extra $1,000 today? Seems possible, but will require work, which is this. Believable, but requires work. You don't completely believe it, but there's a default credibility that comes because it seems realistic, it feels earned, doesn't feel guaranteed, but it feels like you can get there. And the title should usually imply a method, and the thumbnail should add some evidence. This works best, of course, when result is a common success story. Then we go into 4 points, which is almost certain if you try. This is where you have a clear roadmap, step by step, structured. You believe, right? This is not about whether you have a roadmap or not. It is whether the thumbnail and title make the viewer believe that there is a roadmap they can follow. Believe that it is a repeatable method. Believe that there is proof. There's a checklist, there's a framework, there's step-by-step visuals. And typically, you'll end up seeing words like step-by-step, framework, template, blueprint. Just copy this, copy and paste this. Easiest method, you basically give people a reason to feel like this should be easy. Then 5 points, which is inevitable. This is typically not going to happen. But the highest perceived likelihood of achievement titles and thumbnails often say 3 steps. Just copy this, use this template, do this to get blank. Exact strategy I use and you can just copy me, stuff like that. But again, this is not always going to be that you're going to end up reaching 5 points. Most people will stay at 3 points because that is the average for all of these factors, right? You'll stay at 3 points because that's the average. Then we move into the effort and sacrifice part. These are negative factors, right? So these are the lower the factor, the better the outcome. So this is 1 point means effortless, one-click solution. So let's say I made a video about how to make $10 in 1 minute. Seems effortless. Seems like a very simple outcome. One click, one button, couple presses, type something on a keyboard, right? So it feels almost instant. Requires no skill, no learning, no setup, nothing, right? Effortless, easiest solution. You can say you can see people, that's why increase this factor or rather reduce this factor by saying one click. Copy this framework, right? Or this video example, which is 21 YouTube settings that fuck small channels. You see how this plays at you with such a psychological level because this video has 4 million views from a competitor of mine. 21 YouTube settings. It's not 21 YouTube strategies or frameworks. It's settings. Settings seem like, I can just press a couple buttons. Done. Easy. Then it's 2 points is easy, minimal. 3 points is moderate effort. 4 points is high effort, and 5 points is basically brutal, complex, very risky path, highly unlikely to achieve the outcome. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. Let's say I say build a 6-pack. Yeah, in your head, what does that mean? I have to go to the gym every day. I have to work out for 3 hours a day. It's going to be very brutal. It's going to be, it's just going to take a lot of time and effort and so hard. Or if I say how to make $1 billion in 10 years, what do you think that means to you in your head? You're going to be like, fuck, 10 years of grinding and 10 years of, not having time to spend with family. And that's what you imagine. So that imagination of the viewer is what matters. Not what do you say, but what does that make people feel? Which is why these whole factors are more felt than fact. Because human psychology is felt. It's not fact. It's not like you do X, everybody will behave Y. They will not, that's just not how human nature works. Then we finally go into time delay, which is the easiest one to understand. So immediate results. So same day or immediate results, 1 point, right? So this is instant change or result. The result, not, you want to think about this. So the 21 YouTube settings that fuck small channel. That is an example I said to you. So this is that example. 21 YouTube settings that fuck small channels, okay? Now if you think about this as a video, even though the video might not be about settings, it might be about, okay, change these few things and it's going to take you weeks or months to see results. But because of the perception in your head, 21 YouTube settings that fuck small channels, you think that you're just going to have to change a couple settings and it's very easy. You'll get the result. Even though it doesn't say anywhere you'll get the result today or right now or tomorrow or next year or 10 years from now, it doesn't say it. But you perceive it to be a relatively quick result because it's just some settings to be changed. So that is how viewers perceive things, right? It's not just about what is actuality, it's about what they perceive. So you can use some psychological tricks to make them feel like it's going to be a more instant or pretty quick outcome. They think that they'll get the result today, right? And you have to think about it like this, right? The result here is not the settings. It is about not fucking your channel, which means that growing your channel. That's what you think. You act out of fear because the outcome, if you look at it, the dream outcome here is not fucking your channel, which means that making your channel succeed. Perceived likelihood of achievement seems high because it's just some couple settings. And then the thumbnail itself shows you number 19 and it shows you, views 43 versus views 107,000. Pretty believable. It's just one setting changed. Then the effort of sacrifice seems low because it's just settings. Time delay seems low because it's just settings. So you see how psychologically just the settings button, settings word changes the whole shebang. Then there's 2 points. So something that you'll expect an outcome within a week, right? So it's 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. Titles will often say that in 7 days, this week, 24 hours, whatever, How to start and scale a business in 24 hours. How to make your first $7,000 in 5 days or $5,000 in 7 days, whatever. It's just number of days. Then there's the few weeks to few months. So this, something that takes a month, takes perception, right? So, let's say in a quarter, 23 copywriting secrets to make millions in 2024 or 2025, whatever. Now, this could be for anyone and they could perceive it differently, but most people might think that if the target audience already makes like a couple $100,000 a year, then to them making millions doesn't seem super far off. But if you're talking to beginners, 23 copywriting secrets to make millions as a beginner, you'll think it's going to take years. So the perception also matters based on the audience, right? Or how to get copywriting clients without experience. Now, the video might say you'll get clients in 7 days, but because it doesn't say it in the title or the thumbnail, you're going to assume it's going to take a couple weeks to a couple months, right? That's just kind of how human nature works. Then there's a long term, which is 6 months to 3 years. Now, undefined doesn't mean that people will be like, oh, he doesn't say 7 days, so it's going to be 10 years. No, of course not. This is more like, how to become a millionaire by the age of 60. Okay, by the age of 60, fucking so far. Or how to get so rich you question the meaning of making money, as Alex Hormozi. Now, you don't think it's going to be like in one day you'll get that rich. Or how I sold my company and got depressed. Now, this one is a very interesting video that I think we can talk about because people will think, I sold my company for millions and now I'm depressed, lol. What do you think is the dream outcome here? I'll give you a couple seconds to think and then I'll tell you my answer. The dream outcome in this scenario, because it seems like a negative video, right? I sold my company for millions and now I'm depressed, lol. The outcome obviously is not getting depressed, but the outcome is learning how to sell your company for millions and not get depressed. That's the outcome in the viewer's mind. Because that's what they're going to watch the video for, right? They're going to be like, how to not get depressed while making money. That's the outcome. Now, perceived likelihood of achievement for this video is pretty low because you don't have a reason to believe that you will get the outcome. He doesn't say, don't do this or my biggest mistake, don't copy me. He doesn't say any of that, right? He doesn't give you a reason to believe that you'll get the outcome for sure. It's just like you think that you might be able to get some outcome, some learnings from this. But also the thing is that the reason believability goes up is because you know this guy, or at least people who know Jordan Welch know who this is. So they're like, I should watch this because I know this guy speaks the truth when he speaks the truth, right? When he spits, he spit in. So that is how believability can go up as well. Over time, as your brand becomes bigger, believability goes up. Now, effort and sacrifice in this case, don't know. It's going to be high on the scale because remember, high means high amount of effort and sacrifice, right? So it's going to be like 4 points, 5 points, whatever. Because you think that it's going to, sell your company for millions is definitely going to be high effort and it's definitely going to take time. So time delay also is at the max level. So you see how, even though it's never said anywhere, you just think it's going to take a long time because selling a company for millions is different from making millions at a 9 to 5. So it's like, let's say I have a 9 to 5. I'm like, I have to start a company, then I have to make money, then I have to sell it. It's going to take years. It's going to take maybe 5 years, 7 years, 3 years even at worst case. At best case. But yeah, you basically think about it like that. Right now I have some, and this is the document, by the way, that is amongst like hundreds of other things that I have out here. Half of this, course really that you're seeing is basically from the stuff that I already have created before. Because I have a bunch of assets. So if you want any of these things, you can DM me. I might be able to, if nothing else, just sell some of them to you for like $50 or $100 because I've spent years crafting these. But otherwise, you can just, use this training itself to basically make whatever money you want to make. Some quick tips, and we'll then talk about very quickly how to make thumbnails. So some quick tips after the value equation, because that's the most core important part about thumbnails. You need to understand these factors to then be able to use them, right? Quick tips with titles and thumbnails. The title should convey the most important part in less than 60 characters, or the title will get truncated on most devices. So if you look at this video, for example, this title is pretty long. Because I'm on my laptop, I'm able to see a relatively long part of it. I'm able to see pretty much the whole title. But if I was on my mobile, I would not. And most people are on mobile. So it'll probably get cut off at like, I let Anthropic's new AI agent control my computer. What? That's probably what I'm going to see on mobile. If you see, the important part of this video is actually explained in the first 60 characters. I let Anthropic's new AI agent control my computer. It's just not a great promise. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get from watching this, but something. I'm going to get something. And if you're just a fan of the guy or whatever, you might be able to care. Now, another one, which is long. And if you see these, the ones that are long titles, wow, OpenAI released some open source models. Here's what it means for you. You see how the outcome is promised later on. What it means for you is promised too late. The first 60 characters is, wow, OpenAI released open source models. Okay, but why should I care? And if you look at, that's why this video has 6,000 views. This video that we also looked at before has, well, 4,000 views, which is not great for this channel. That ends up sometimes getting, even 3 days ago, you got 13,000, 7,000, 41,000, right? So you see how these factors of like, especially this one, which we just talked about, the length of the title really matters. Now, you can go up to 100 characters, but keep the last 40 more so to add keywords for SEO or some less important extra context. So we won't talk about this as much now. As well, the fact of the matter is you shouldn't have to make titles from scratch anyways, because we already covered it in the ideas part. But in terms of thumbnails, there are two things that matter the most. Now, there are quite a lot of factors because I have a big ass workshop that I've done on thumbnails, right? It's massively long, like really long. And it also has like a bunch of templates and stuff like that for people to use, you know, how to use AI as well for thumbnails and stuff, but I will not talk about that because it's quite a lot. But the main thing is that there are two most important thumbnail factors amongst all the factors. Who is this for and why should they care? Very simply, right? So we did talk about dream outcome, perceived likelihood of achievement, effort, sacrifice, time, delay. Those are different things. This is the two most important factors among all the factors. For thumbnails alone is who is this for and why should they care? Okay, so let's look at two videos for example here. Alex Hormozi's two videos. Who is this for and why should they care? The first one on the left side is $0 to $1 million and it shows a blueprint with Alex Hormozi. The right one says, ask yourself those 3 questions. Now the left side title says, if I wanted to become a millionaire in 2024, this is what I do. Full blueprint. Right side says, Alex Hormozi reveals the blueprint to go from broke to rich. Now this channel on the right side is actually Hormozi's second channel, which he ended up stopping because it was not getting results. The reason it's not getting results is because he's posting content like this. Now it's not to say that the content is bad, because Hormozi is a very good orator. He's very good at communicating. He's very good at dropping bombs and awesome sauce throughout his content. It's just that the thumbnail doesn't give you a clear enough reason to care. 3.7 million views versus 27,000 views. From Alex Hormozi's own channel, right? It's not like some random podcast uploaded this. It's Alex Hormozi himself uploaded this. What's the difference? If I wanted to become a millionaire in 2024, this is what I do. Full blueprint. And then Alex Hormozi reveals the blueprint to go from broke to rich. So, thumbnail wise already. Let's look at only the thumbnail. Who is this for? $0 to $1 million. Pretty clear. People who want to make $1 million. Who is this for? Ask yourself 3 questions. So, it's not for people who want to become rich, because that's not mentioned. The only thing that you see is Alex Hormozi. So it's like, okay, Alex Hormozi fans. Let's say that's the target audience. Alex Hormozi fans. Now, why should they care? $0 to $1 million and a blueprint. Here, ask yourself those 3 questions. Why should I care? You see how this alone is so important. Who is this for? Why should they care? Okay, let's scroll down more. Who is this for? Why should they care? Stop smiling. Looks like some research papers or some article found or something like that, right? If you don't read the title, it's just like, stop smiling. Who is this for? For everybody. Why should they care? Because why are you telling me to stop smiling? Everybody tells you to smile. Why should I stop smiling? What's that going to do for me? What am I going to get? It's for the average person, but also for the person who wants to learn about things like this, who cares about extroversion. Somebody who's introverted is already not smiling for the most part, right? They're secluded. They don't give a shit about how humans perceive them. I mean, they do, but not in the sense that extroverts do, right? So, and I'm an introvert, by the way. So, stop smiling. Who is this for? Why should they care, right? Let me see if there's any other example. I'll not cover that because this one just works. It's the title. What a fucking banger. Talk covered this. These are comparisons. All right. Yeah, basically. Okay. Same guy uploaded these 2 videos 1 year apart. 21 YouTube settings that fuck small channels. 11 YouTube settings you need to know to grow. Okay. Who is this for? Very clearly people who want views on YouTube, right? Why should they care? Because they'll get views on YouTube. It's pretty clear. Who is this for? Fix settings, get views. Why should they care? But the reason why this one doesn't work is we go at the other factors. Believability. I don't believe this. Don't give me a reason to believe it. Here he does. He's showing you proof. And it looks like effort and sacrifice is low. Just a button. Time delay is low because of the one change in how the perception is. Then also 21 settings that fuck small channels in itself, psychologically appeals you more than you need to know to grow. You need to know to grow. It's just quite a lot. I don't care about needing to know to grow. I care about growing. It's not about what I need to know. It's about growing, right? So need to know is an unnecessary part of that statement. 11 YouTube settings to grow insanely fast. Okay. See, that would have worked better than you need to know to grow. You see how he might have made the same exact video again. I don't know because I haven't watched this one, but it's very simply just, who is this for? Why should they care? Here, this seems again more like this is for the person who knows this guy. and how he'll teach you how to fix settings to get views. Whereas this is just like for everybody who wants to get views very simply, right? So yeah, that is basically the important parts of the thumbnail. Okay, so keep thumbnail simple, as you saw, right? It's, you can have a face, you can have text, but keep it maximum 4 elements. And you saw that in all the best performers I just showed you. Then there's something I call the double blink test for thumbnails. Now this is very important because people don't just look at a thumbnail in the way that you want them to see it. They look at it very quickly. Like I said, 0.3 seconds, right? So 0.3 seconds, I open YouTube, double blink, okay? Which one did I understand? Definitely did not understand this one at the bottom. Stop doing outreach. Definitely did not understand this one on the left side because it's just, there's a lot going on. I understood that this is by Hormozy. I understood this is by Andrew Huberman. I didn't understand what these were about, but I might be able to understand pretty quickly if I zoomed in on each thumbnail now. Okay, so now firstly I'm saying in isolation you should not look at it, but especially at least in isolation, right? So if I double blink, okay, I kind of understand this one. It's about building an app and making money, right? This one, you're wasting your time. Okay, but I have to read the title to understand it. Easy lol. Okay, this one I understand because I know it's a YouTube thing and it's just easy. He says it's going to be easy, right? It's the YouTube backend, the analytics section. Okay. This one, all I understand is mastery of sleep and Huberman. If I double blink, this one, stop doing outreach. Yeah, but like, what is the other stuff that is there? I don't understand it. So I don't understand the whole thing. Remember, you have to understand the whole thing, not just 1 or 2 things. You have to understand the whole thing in order to understand why you should care in a split second. Here, very easy, simple, sell expensive shit with Hormozy's face because there's nothing else to look at, So you see how the simpler the thumbnail, the easier it is to comprehend. The simpler it is, the easier to comprehend because that's all that people see at the end. They're not like, let me analyze each thing to be like, what am I missing? No, they don't care. They're just going to scroll until something captures attention. That's it. So that is what makes a good thumbnail. Now here's how to actually make thumbnails. So you want to write your thumbnail text before you design it. So thumbnail text is the, whatever. It's easy lol or just copy me or $0 to $1 million, right? Whatever is the outcome, you want to either show the outcome visually, right? Or in the terms of text, or you want to give them the believability through the thumbnail because the thumbnail is more believable in essence that it shows you things rather than tells you things in the title. So the thumbnail is the best place to show them why they should care. So don't freestyle your text when designing because that's how you'll end up with weak, vague or long phrases because you don't know what you're saying. Instead, decide your overall text before you design anything. And your text should be 4 words or less, simple, bold, and curiosity provoking. Not a copy of your title, very important, and not cluttered or on the bottom right because timestamps cover it. So let me just show you what that means. So if you look at, if I have text here, nobody is going to see it because YouTube has a timestamp feature, which is why this client doesn't because he's doing it smart. But sometimes people end up doing it. And it is a big mistake. Right? So if you look at almost all of these are either if they have more words like AI iOS game in 10 minutes, well, it works because it's short words. You can comprehend in a split second. You don't need to it's not like like a whole ass sentence. It doesn't look like a sentence. It looks like a couple words, right? Because it's all just short words. Let's build an app. AI agents are here. Claude can now do what? That one didn't work. Better than Cursor AI. If you look again at the most popular stuff, for the most part, for almost anybody, it'll always be the simpler stuff. Always the stuff that has the least number of words. $700 a day with AI, right? Very easy to understand. Claude code is insane. Build a game with AI. It's very easy, rolls off the tongue, very simple to understand what this video is about. You have text like 3 easy steps, quit in X time, 0 to 5K, this changes everything, never do this, just copy me. You can make thumbnails on Canva because, well, you can make thumbnails anywhere, right? Don't overthink the tool. Don't think you need to learn Photoshop because I don't know Photoshop and I have made thousands of thumbnails, thousands of thumbnails. We've interviewed over 100 thumbnail designers for our agency in the past and the best ones don't rely on Adobe Photoshop skills. Some of my designers make thumbnails on mobile. I myself have made thumbnails like these on mobile 8 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago. These are thumbnails I used to make on my phone before Canva existed. This is some app called Photo Editor. I used to use that to edit photos and it would take me a long time, but I could do it because at the end of the day, a good craftsman doesn't blame his tools. I made thumbnails on my phone for I think 5 years, if I'm not wrong, before I even had a laptop. But even today, we make premium thumbnails for our clients on Canva. Trust me. So this channel, The Art of Time, who is a client of mine, he's a luxury watch dealer, and you can see all of these thumbnails are made on Canva, right? You can see stuff like this. You will think it's not made on Canva, but it is, because it can be, stuff like this, right? Everything is in Canva. All the text, everything is on Canva, right? So Canva is not a bad tool to use for thumbnails. It's relatively not super hard to use, because when you use a tool like this, you focus more on the effectiveness than the aesthetics. Even though the aesthetics are still good looking here, if you look at these, right? There's a bunch of renditions of the same thumbnail, because that's how YouTube works. You want to make multiple thumbnails. And if you look at this, like, you'll think that this requires Photoshop, but it doesn't. It's very easy. You just need text, logos, text, and the watch and some lines, which all of them Canva can do very easily, So everything here is done 100% on Canva. It's not like I use Photoshop and then I import into Canva, because I don't think that's possible. But I don't know how to use Photoshop. I've never used Photoshop. I have actually once to make a thumbnail, because I was just like, just want to learn how it is. But relatively, Canva is way better, right? You can make all kinds of stuff on Canva, and and you can see that, some of these are not loading yet because there's just quite a lot of files in this one project, but you basically get the idea, right? You can make thumbnails on Canva relatively easily. Just look at this one video's thumbnail renditions that we made. So this one video, first we import an example of what we want the video to kind of be like. Then we'll think about the text. Then we start designing. You see how that works? We start designing. We make a few different examples, a few different designs, few different watches sometimes. In this case, few different, again, angles. Sometimes one watch, sometimes two, sometimes three, Then we again look at another example. We're like, okay, let's try to recreate this, but do better. So we try, and we just keep trying. We just keep trying, right? And we just make a bunch of, look at this, it's 45 pages, But that's because, well, we want the best stuff for our clients. It's just very simple. Even for my own channel, I have I don't know how many thumbnails I've made or my team has made on here, but there's a bunch. And none of these are you can't tell. If you show somebody who uses Photoshop, they'll be like, oh, this definitely requires Photoshop. But it doesn't, because everything can be made on Canva. Trust me. So, you just want to not overcomplicate your life and just fucking use Canva. Just fucking use Canva. Like even this is made on Canva. Everything is here. It's on Canva. All these elements, the text, everything, it's on Canva. You don't need fancy Photoshop, or you don't need to hire $1,000 thumbnail designer, whatever, right? Another client, all of this stuff is also made on Canva. All of these are made on Canva. Finally, another that I already showed you. We've been making their podcast thumbnails for a very long time. And these are all made on Canva for more than a year. I think almost 2 years at this point. So we even have hundreds of thumbnail templates we made in Canva, actually. If you want, you can email me or DM me or Instagram or Twitter, and I can share these with you. So these are templates you can use yourself, right? So it's like templates like this. You can just, insert your face, insert whatever, templates like this for a bunch of different niches. Some are for podcasts, some are for, like business spaces, business niches, content, productivity, crypto. You get the point. AI, fitness, got a bunch. Yeah. So the thing is that a good craftsman never blames his tools, right? So it's not about the software you use. It's about following the right principles. Example, my best performing video on this channel has a thumbnail that I made on Canva in 20 minutes before, well, I knew anything. I didn't even know what thumbnail text I'll put. I didn't know anything, right? So it started off with like this. Now the video is actually about the 80-20 rule of YouTube, which I showed you earlier in this masterclass, let's call it, or in this course. And that thumbnail came from me not knowing what I was going to do. And it's the best performing one. And the reason why it performs is because it's just the simplest thumbnail possible for that video, right? So what I did was, I have pictures of me, I have pictures of my background, all separated, okay? And I'm just like, first I thought I was going to do 3 things, because the video actually says, forget all the 80% of stuff that people tell you to do with YouTube, just do these 3 things and you'll get results, right? So 3 things is research, scripting with bullet points, and making titles and thumbnails. Now, that is what I initially planned, but then I was like, wait, the video actually covers more of what not to do than what to do. And what people care about more is saving time. So that's the thing, right? You need to understand psychologically who your viewer is. They care about saving time, not what to do. They care about saving time. So we got to show them how to save time, right? So first I thought, okay, how to save time, so 3 things. Then I cut out all the unnecessary things. And this one is simple, right? It's text, you see text. There's a black line going across. There's a YouTube logo in the background. And there's this gradient. Without the gradient, you see how it looks very flat. With it, just the text pops off, right? Then I was like, wait, this video is not so much about what are the 3 things to do. It's more about what not to do, more about saving time. Therefore, I landed on this, save time. And I had also come up with multiple other variations like YouTube funnel, but I was like, nah, that doesn't work. Or stop doing these things, but nah, we don't need to say stop this. We can just cross those things out. And it's way easier to understand things when they're written, like this: planning, scripting, editing, storytelling, Photoshop, than to look at Photoshop logo, because some people might not know what it is, the logo. Some people might not understand what this filming icon is, right? So I decided to go with this one, and of course it performed well. So thumbnails are not super complex. You can do these yourself on Canva, or you can hire somebody. But that's because effectiveness matters more than aesthetics at the end of the day, right? So by the way, if you want someone to handle your thumbnails for you, I've got full-time designers on my team that me and my business partner have personally trained over the last 2 years, because we tried hiring so many different designers. Most of them don't know shit. They only know how to use Photoshop. They don't know how to think. They don't know the psychology of a viewer. They don't know what colors and what elements and what fonts and what stuff to use. They don't know what text to put in the thumbnail, right? So all of this stuff I've taught my designers, to the point that now I just be like, here's my video, here's a client's video, make a thumbnail. And then they'll make 3 or 4 thumbnail variations, and then we end up using one of them, or maybe 2 of them, or 3 of them, depending on, the video itself, right? And the fact of the matter is, and trust me on this, I've hired a lot of people, our designers will cost you way lesser than a Fiverr designer would, because the Fiverr designer will ask for every little thing and slow you down. They'll slow down your growth by 5 or 10 times. And if you hire a professional thumbnail designer, most of those guys, and I don't know why this is, I find it very fascinating that most of those guys don't know how to think about thumbnails. They're just like, can you tell me what to do? And I'll do it. I'm like, what the fuck am I paying you for? I'm paying you for thinking, because the thinking is the hardest part. It's like, okay, here's a video about 5 luxury watches to buy under $50,000. Okay, but what should the thumbnail be? If I have to think about it myself, then I'm just telling you to design it. I can do the fucking design myself in 10 minutes on Canva. That is why my thumbnail designers they are more affordable for you. And we even have a thumbnail only package, which we just recently launched because people have been asking for it. And the thing is that these professional thumbnail designers will charge you $150, $200 sometimes even, or at least $100 per thumbnail. Whereas we'll charge you lesser because of the fact that these are people that we taught in-house. So we pay them lesser than, the biggest thumbnail designers charge, right? And the thing is that if you really want a good thumbnail designer who can think for you, it's going to cost you quite a lot of money. Like Iman Ghazi pays his thumbnail team over $10,000 a month. 2 years ago, he was hiring a full-time designer, or 3 full-time designers at the same time. And he said the salary is $3,000 per month for each of them. Plus, they get $100 bonus for each thumbnail that is approved to be used that they make. Now, at this time, he was only uploading 1 video a week, and he had 3 full-time thumbnail designers for it. That's how much thumbnails matter, right? So, we are looking for a couple people who want thumbnails only, or thumbnails and titles and maybe a couple other things, but mainly thumbnails over the next few months. So feel free to drop me a DM on Instagram or Twitter. Link will be in the description. Or you can book a call from below, and I'll see if it makes sense for us to work together. Otherwise, I'll just share with you my 2-hour-long thumbnail masterclass for your designer to be able to use it. Okay, so you lose nothing. Worst case, your designer knows exactly how to make thumbnails. Now, quick things. Packaging is never done because it's more felt than fact, right? I can never say this is thumbnail, it's going to 100% work no matter what happens for everybody. It doesn't. That's never going to be the case. It's always about testing, iterating, improving over time, because human psychology can never be perfected. It's always dynamic. So therefore, I always draft 3 to 4 title variations for each video, 3 to 5, and I draft 2 to 3 thumbnail variations using different emotional triggers, right? So if you saw the thumbnail I showed you as well on Canva, I had 2 to 3 with different variations for what they stand for, different elements or aspects of the video. And then you can ask your ideal clients or your current clients, or you can ask people who are in the same niche as you. Don't ask random people. Don't ask your mom or your brother or your wife. They don't know about your niche, so they're not your ideal viewer. And then over time, use views correlation to test, right? So if you upload a video, it's working very poorly, change the title first. If after 12 hours it's still working poorly, change the title again. If it still doesn't work after 2 changes of title, then change the thumbnail. So keep doing that, because titles are easier to generate, of course. So, don't run out of your thumbnails very quickly. So you want to keep testing. And then sometimes some videos just need time. So I recommend waiting 48 hours or so before testing, especially if you have a very, very, very new channel, right? So if you, started from beginning, it's going to take you 48 to 72 hours for a video to even get picked up by the algorithm. So you want to swap thumbnails for new emotional angles, adjust titles, with a stronger promise, or you might add a keyword. We'll talk about keywords later. Or you might want to reduce clutter. So you want to focus on the dream outcome, perceived likelihood of achievement, effort, sacrifice, time, delay, right? And don't panic, because impressions growth is the only metric to track early. Don't look at click-through rate, which is something that YouTube tells you to look at. We'll again talk about this later, but just don't panic. So actually, I believe it's let me go back to client of ours, the luxury watch dealer. And I think it is this video. Yeah. Unexpected luxury watch brands quietly winning in 2025. So this video, when we first uploaded, it was the poorest performing video in months. It was doing really badly. It had like 100 views or 50 views or 70 views in one day. And then we're like, fuck, what did we do wrong? And the only thing we changed, trust me on this, the thumbnail, we changed it to say the watch brand instead of the watches. So, instead of putting watches everywhere, we put watch brands. And then the title, we just added the word unexpected in the beginning. Unexpected luxury watches, unexpected luxury watch brands. And it's made all the difference. This video now has 2,900 views. And it was the best performing video of that month, or at least of a couple weeks, right? So it performed really well. The first day it got 200 views or so. We deleted and re-uploaded the video, by the way, because we tried changing titles and thumbnails. It wasn't working. So we deleted and re-uploaded. And that's something you can always do, right? Delete and re-upload videos. So at this point, you fully understood how packaging works and how you can stop anyone in your ideal client persona from scrolling past your video. But that's only half the battle, because once they click, you need to keep them watching, because if they drop off in the first 30 seconds, then none of this matters, right? They'll never reach your offer. So next, we're going to talk about how to exactly script your videos and structure them for retention using ChatGPT, of course. So your authority actually lands you client and your content drives real revenue for you. So why does script writing actually matter? Because your title and thumbnail get you clicks, but your script is what gets you clients. Because if nobody stays till the end, then they're never going to buy from you, right? If they don't resonate with your content and how you speak and how you deliver your content, they're never going to buy from you. Therefore, the most important thing to actually get people to stay till the end is your intro, your hook, as we call it in the marketing world. So because of the recent attention spans reducing, it's actually your first 3 seconds that really matter. Therefore, your first sentence is of utmost importance, which is why you'll see that in this video specifically, when we started the video, we had a lot more edits in the beginning, because the beginning is where you're the most skeptical. So the skepticism can only be reduced by giving people and over delivering on the promise that was set in the title and the thumbnail, right? So you want to have more edits in the beginning. You want to have some very unique hooking statement, which is why if you look back at my intro, I started by saying, what if I told you that you'll make more money with 1,000 subscribers than 100,000 subscribers, right? So it's a reframe, it's a hook, it captures your attention. Now let me explain to you how to do all of this hook stuff later. But the next thing is that if your delivery is unstructured, people will leave before your call to action. And that's the thing, right? You're making these videos not to just make content for the sake of making content, but in order to get you sales. And so sales will only come if people are resonating with your content. Therefore, you need to have a structure to make it psychologically resonate with them, right? You need to have the right elements in the right order in order for this to happen. We'll explain more about how to do this a little bit later. So if you get this wrong, you'll end up spending 2-3 years posting videos that never convert. Now, I'm not saying don't use AI for your content, but I will say that don't just blindly use AI for your content. Because the fact is that a script made by ChatGPT is only good if ChatGPT knows what a good script is. And for the most part, it doesn't, because it looks at the average content out there and it thinks the average is the norm. Therefore, average is what you need. But if you make average content, it just looks like AI slop. And it's very, very, very obvious when somebody is blindly using AI in their content, right? And you don't want to look like the kind of person whose script is just written by AI. Therefore, you never seem like an authority. Like in this case, this video that I'm recording, yes, I use ChatGPT for it. Obviously, I'm not stupid to write this script, for years. But I spent about 8 to 10 hours to rewrite it because it's not 100% me. It's not 100% true. It's not 100% representative of the knowledge that I have. So all the little quirks and the little tricks and hacks cannot be written by AI because it doesn't know you. It doesn't know your experience. It doesn't know what you've been through, how much ever information you feed it. Because earlier on, we have fed AI a lot of information about our business, who we are and everything. It's going to be able to give you a structure. So now let's talk about the structure of the video, right? The structure is basically gonna go something like this, regardless of what kind of educational videos you make, right? So if you make videos like this, sitting down, talking, this is essentially the structure you need to follow. We start off with the intro, because as I established, the intro or the hook matters most. So I'll give you two different frameworks a little bit later, but essentially all you want to know is that there's one framework called the DAP and the other one called the PPP. And your only goal in the intro is to keep the promise made by your thumbnail and title and over deliver a bit if you can. If you're not editing your videos, for example, the over delivery has to come a little bit in the script. So an example of this would be your first 2 or 3 sentences are something extremely contrary to what people believe. Like I started with this video, right? So I'm establishing here both ways of hooking people because it's a long video. You want to give people all the reasons you can to watch. But if it's a 5-minute, 7-minute, 10-minute video, you can get away with just not doing that much edits because people are watching and their expectations are not super high when it's a 5-minute video. But of course, at the end of the day, the more you over deliver on expectations, the better people feel and the more they come back because everybody likes when content is better than they expected, right? So you want to ideally have 7 to 10 lines in your intro. Now, of course, if a video is long like this, you can have up to 20 lines because it's a video that's 100 times longer than the average YouTube videos. But for the most part, I wouldn't recommend going above 10 sentences maximum and keep them as short and sweet as possible. Focus on the important things. We'll talk about it again later. So the next thing you want to have is a transition from your intro to the first point or the first segment. Now, this is very important because your intro establishes the whole content of the video. Right? It's like summarizing essentially what people are going to get from watching. But each segment needs to have an intro or a hook for people to care about that segment. Because otherwise what's going to happen is people are going to be like, I think I know this, I'm going to skip. Which is why you see every single time I'm transitioning between, intro to the first segment to the second segment to the third segment, I have a transition statement that gives you another reason to watch the next part only. Just focusing on that segment only, right? And what this does is, well, it's something called the Zeigarnik effect. It's a psychological principle, which essentially states that people don't like when things are incomplete. So the more that you give them reasons to watch a particular thing or listen to a particular thing, the more they're going to stay because they feel that they got incomplete information or they don't have complete information, which is why hooks are so important because the whole point of a hook or an intro is to get people to feel like there's so much that they will miss out if they don't watch this content. So that fear of having incomplete information is essentially what the Zeigarnik effect says and also what, fear of missing out is, So combining both of these things, we essentially need to always have a transition, especially the longer the video is, the more you need to emphasize the transition because people have no reason to keep watching if you don't give them a reason to keep watching. So you want to have a transition. But the body content of your video, the actual value of it won't even matter unless people get there, right? That's why we need a transition because 60% of people especially leave between the first 30 seconds of your video. So you want to make it as tight as possible and give people no reason to leave, which means give them as many reasons to stay, But there's a tricky balance. We'll talk about that later. But you essentially just want to feel like you have 2 or 3 sentences to transition between each segment, especially this transition from the introduction to the first point. So let me look back at this video, right? If you look at the intro, although I explained what all we are going to cover in the video, I still had an establishing introduction transition into the first segment because the first segment is about research and strategy. Now, for the most part, that's the boring stuff that nobody wants to do. So most likely people would end up skipping that part, which is why I have to preface it. I have to explain before I get into that segment why it matters for you to actually consume it. And that's essentially what we want to do. It depends a little bit on the length of the video and the length of the segment, of course, but essentially you want to keep it, 2 to 3 sentences max, and you just want to preface why somebody should care about the next segment. Then finally, let's talk about these segments themselves, right? How do the segments itself work? So, you have, let's say, 3 segments in a video. After you have the intro and then the transition, you're going to make the first segment, you're going to script it out, right? So this is somewhat the framework, that's how it's going to be. So you want to have a why, and this why can be combined with the transition sometimes, but for the most part, you want to focus on telling people why they should care about this point, right? Why should you care? Then only give them the what and the how. So don't start by saying, let's talk about script writing. script writing is the process of blah, blah, blah. No, I never did that. You see, I started off by saying, why does script writing matter? Because you want to give people the proper reason to care about this. So I have written an example here, but most people end up making a big mistake with their intro that costs them potentially millions of dollars. They think their script is good because they end up literally copying their script from ChatGPT, but ChatGPT itself can't script well because it doesn't know what a good script is. So here's how I actually script my hook within 5 to 10 minutes to make my target audience feel like they'd be stupid to not watch the whole video. So you see how I am explaining why this section even matters, right? And then I'll give you the what I do, the exact framework, the exact principles, the exact methodology, whatever. And then I'll explain to you how to do it. Most people end up doing what, how, and then why, if they even have a why in their, segment. But the reason this doesn't work is because you have to give people a reason to care. That reason to care is essentially combining the transition statement with the next segment so that there's a smooth transition between the two where you don't even realize that the next segment is essentially starting, in the sense that it's a different segment, right? It's like when Netflix shows, before the episode ends, they leave you on a cliffhanger. The reason for that cliffhanger is essentially they give you a why to not stop watching, right? There's the autoplay feature, on the bottom right. It starts playing the next episode automatically. And that is essentially because once you have a reason to care, you're more likely to not want to stop watching, right? The only way you're going to stop watching something is when you don't feel like it's important to you anymore. Don't feel like you have a reason to care anymore. So psychologically, you want to have the why first, and then you want to explain the what. The exact framework, exact principle, whatever, and then the how, how to do it, step by step, guide, whatever. If you have a long video especially, right, so if it's, something above 20 minutes, I recommend having a call to action after the first segment is over, right? So you want to embed it as much as possible into the content itself, right? You don't want it to seem like, okay, so now if you want this, so you don't want it to seem like an advertisement is placed into your video, you want it to seem like it's a natural transition from the content you were talking about to the call to action, which is why if you look back at this video, the call to action that I had was a very subtle call to action, just like, download the link of the research sheet, right? Download the Notion research page, link in description, right? It's a very simple, subtle call to action, but it's very effective because it gives people a reason to get into your lowest hanging fruit, whatever, lead magnet you have, or maybe you have a free consultation call or something like that. You want to give people a reason to take the next natural step right then and there, not wait till the end of the video, especially when it's a long video, right? If you have a 5-minute video, don't have a call to action in the middle. Or after the first segment. But essentially you want to position this somewhere around the first 25% of the video because it filters out the people who are not interested in the content anyways because they're going to leave early on. You don't want to have a call to action in the beginning of the video because again, people who are going to stay only for the beginning are not the people you want buying from you anyways, because if they don't even care about consuming your content properly, they're never going to care about consuming your information in the course or whatever, right? And they're never going to buy from you unless they trust you, and they're never going to trust you unless they watch your content. It's a whole vicious cycle, really. So you want to have a very soft, short, and integrated call to action, right? If you're a coach doing under $20,000 a month and this sounds familiar, check the doc below where I explain to you exactly what to do to get your first $20,000 a month, right? Step-by-step guide, whatever. Or you can be like, if you want to, you can download my DAP formula worksheet from below to be able to use the DAP formula for all of your future scripts. It's a very simple call to action. You don't want to oversell it, right now because it's still early on. They haven't fully understood the value of the video, but you want to have that as a thing so that they remember that there is something that they can do as a next step. In case they don't watch all the way till the end, maybe they watch 50% of the video, at least they know that there is something that they can download which is going to be helpful for them, right? So that also helps you just get them into your funnel, whether it's a lead magnet or whatever you want to do. I prefer having lead magnets if it's a video long enough because that's the mass conversion usually happens through lead magnet or email list. That also works, but lead magnet is usually the best one. Then you want to have a transition from the call to action into the next segment, right? So as we said, transitions are important. Then you want to have the next segment. Again, you follow the why, what, how, and then you essentially just keep going in that structure until all of your points are done. Now, for the most part, for a video that's like 10 minutes, 20 minutes long, you're going to have maybe 5 segments. Typically, that's what I see happening. So essentially, you want to look at the first segment as the most important because that's where, people really see if you're worth listening to or not. But at the end of the day, the better your content is, the better everything is going to be, right? So of course, focus on having good content. Now, the end matters a lot. So when you have a video that's longer than 20 minutes, you want to have a payoff at the end. So you want to close the loop, don't let the video end flat. Use like, a reflective line or a motivational push or reframe their identity. Now let's talk about the closing of your video. How do you actually close the video after you had the whole body section complete? We'll talk again about the ChatGPT script writing process a little bit later, maybe in a minute or so. But so another thing that kind of matters, not always, is having a payoff. So the reason I recommend doing this, especially for your videos that are a little bit longer, like 15 minutes or more, right, is you want to remind people of the main most important thing about the video. Now, a video like this, for example, there is no one main most important thing, but still at the end, I'm going to summarize a couple key pointers so that people at least know what to remember. Because if it's too much information, they're going to end up forgetting everything. So you want to give people, a summary if it's a longer video of at least the main most important points, right? If it's like one takeaway, two takeaways, whatever. But how I recommend doing this is shifting their identity, because in sales, people only buy when their identity is shifted, right? So you don't want people to buy from their old identity because they're never going to buy. Now imagine if they keep thinking that they are fine as they are, they're happy with who they are, they're never going to end up buying, because everybody who is overweight wants to lose weight. They want to get skinnier. They want to get fitter. They want to become more confident, but they lie to themselves because it's more comfortable that way than doing the hard work. And so you want to give them a reason to shift their identity from the old identity to the new one, which is why if you look at my content, throughout this whole content, I am reshifting identity that the subscriber count doesn't matter. It's the content that you make matters to get you the revenue that you need, right? So that identity shift is already there for me from the beginning. But if it was a shorter video, I would not put it in the beginning. I would rather put it more towards the end. I would embed it a little bit slightly here and there, but my focus would still be to do it in the summary section, because that's when the people who are actually serious are going to keep watching till the end, which is usually about 20% of people for the most part. That's very normal, just normal human behavior. Or maximum 30% stay till like the last minute or so, right? So you want to have like either a reflective line, like most people never fix this, or a motivational push, like if you implement this, you won't need to cold DM ever again. So you want to again summarize the value of the video in 1 or 2 sentences essentially, if it's a relatively not super long video. And this is why 97% of people never succeed, because they never end up following all of the things that are in this video. But the 3% that actually end up succeeding with their content and start building $1 million brands are the ones who focus on all of the things that I just discussed, especially, doing the right research and strategy and coming up with the video ideas that align with your target audience. You see how if I were to summarize this video, that's essentially how I would do this, in like 2 or 3 sentences. Then finally, you want to have the call to action, which is going to be just, invite to booking a call to your workshop, DMing you, emailing you, messaging you on WhatsApp or iMessage or whatever, or booking, filling out a form, whatever your call to action is, right? I will say though that we'll talk a little bit more about call to actions, what works and what doesn't work a little bit later, but you want to really think about this part as much as you think about the intro, because at the end of the day, people only buy when they're emotionally compelled and logically compelled. It's not just one or the other. It's not just that, oh, 20K a month, I want that, so I'm going to buy, right? It's not that. It's never that, because if it was that easy, people would end up buying every offer. You want to have the right emotion and logic balance. We'll talk about that later. Now, let's move into the intro in as much depth as I possibly can explain to you. So I have 2 different frameworks for the intro. Let's talk about them. The first one is the DAP framework. So I have a whole document for scripts and everything, of course, as I have for everything else, because that's just the way that I have, I've made everything. So here we go. This is the 2 proven frameworks for writing hooks. So this is the first framework. This is typically on average what value-packed educational videos do follow. This is more so for somebody who already has results, already has case studies, already has something that is important enough that within 1 or 2 sentences you can establish authority. So the DAP frameworks is essentially desire, authority, promise. So desire is, what does your viewer desperately want? You want to focus on, if we look at earlier in your research, right? This is why research is important, because the dreams, the desires, the fears, the frustrations of your audience, that's essentially what we're talking about here when I say desire. You want to follow the FFDD. One of them And this is why having all of that written down is important, because you can feed it into ChatGPT and it can give you better intros than what you would come up with yourself, because it knows these psychological things about your audience, right? The psychographics of them. So what does your viewer desperately want, or fear, or desire, or dream of, right? So it's, those factors, but they're interchangeable, because sometimes your video is positive in nature, sometimes it is negative in nature, right? So it depends a lot on the video. Then we talk about the authority statement. So why should they trust you? You want to have your intro give them a reason to care, because you're solving problems. So imagine if you go to a doctor but realize he's not a doctor. You're never gonna listen to his advice, right? It's the same way in any business, right? People are gonna buy from people that they can trust and believe. So you want to establish yourself as an authority in the subject as quickly as possible, which is why if you look at my intro, I mentioned that I've advised MrBeast, I've done master classes for Tai Lopez, I've gotten people with less than 1,000 subscribers so much revenue. That stuff is because I want to establish authority, where you're like, okay, I can trust that this guy is going to be the right person, so I'm going to start listening to him. That's the whole goal. Then you want to have the promise. The promise is essentially the tangible benefit they get if they keep watching the video. So let's say my video is how I make $100,000 with 15 YouTube videos. Okay. So the desire statement could be, if you're posting videos and still not getting leads, it's because XYZ, right? If you're still posting videos and not getting leads, there's one crucial mistake you're making. So that's kind of how the desire hook works, right? You're focusing on a fear or a frustration or a dream or a desire of the target audience, which obviously you should know, which is your ideal customers, right? Then authority statement here would be, I built a client getting system that makes $100,000 from just 15 uploads. So I'm not just reintroducing what I said in the title, right? How I make $100,000 from 15 uploads. I'm saying I built a client getting system as well. So it's, I built a system, so you should trust me because I built the system. It's not that, oh, I found this system, that changes the whole tone, right? I found a system versus I built a system. I built a system means I'm competent enough to be able to build a system for this specific thing. So I become a subject matter expert in your eyes, even though I may not be, but I'm not lying in this case. I am, right? I've been doing this for a long time. So that's authority. Then you have promise. And today I'll show you exactly how to replicate this system for your business, or exactly how to copy paste the system for your business, right? So it's the promise. What do you exactly get from watching? So you see how this, with just 3 or 4 sentences, I could have just finished this whole intro, right? But this video is very long. I have a very, very, very long intro. But essentially, you want to have it as short as possible, because the shorter it is, the lesser bullshit there is inside the intro. It's simple as that. You want to only focus on the important things for the audience. So you don't have to say it in this order, by the way, right? You can just, use all the 3 ingredients. Just you can switch the order around depending on the content. You can experiment a bit. Again, this is more felt than fact, because it's human psychology, and there's no factual way to approach human psychology in the sense of what makes somebody buy, what makes somebody stay. Because if it was factual, then everybody would have perfect results, right? Which is never the case. So that's the first framework. Then we have the PPP. Now the PPP is something I've expanded a bit. It's also something similar to what Alex Hormozi uses. This is the structure where you have a bold promise or a relatable pain. Now this is more universally applicable, right? So the first one is more for somebody who has authority related stuff. In this case, you don't necessarily need it. It's sort of similar, but it's quite different in the way that this one works. So you can use this format more so when you have a very strong claim that you're making, like get clients from YouTube in 7 days, or you're presenting a shortcut or result, or you're addressing a major frustration or objection in your niche. Now, you can also use it in other scenarios. I just prefer using it more in this one because I have authority, and most of the clients I work with have authority in their space. So I prefer using the first one because it's more, well, really, it just works more. It's more likely to work because this one has more moving parts. So it's sometimes it gets a bit harder. So it's basically, the breakdown is like, it's promise or pain. So it's sort of similar to the other one, right? Where we have fear, frustration, dream, or desire. But you see how in that first hook, we have desire, authority, and then promise. In this case, we might be able to promise first. So this is more, playing around with the factors a bit more. It gives you more leeway in the way that you can work with this, but it's a bit more advanced for that reason. So you want to start with a clear result that they want, or a pain they're tired of feeling. This is more specific, right? So it's promise or pain, not dream or pain. So either you give them a result or a pain that they're tired of feeling. Then you want to have proof, right? So proof is different from authority in the sense that authority is about you, but proof doesn't have to be about you. It can be about somebody else. So for example, if I'm making a video about Alex Hormozi's YouTube strategy, I'm not going to say, by the way, I have made my clients over $1 million from YouTube, so I also know how Alex Hormozy did it. No, that's not what the video is about, right? It's not about me, it's about Hormozy. So the proof factor works better in this scenario where we're backing it up with the real outcome. So Alex Hormozy made $100 million from YouTube. But we're going to give examples or analogies or stories or something along the lines to preface that this result that is promised is backed up. So it could be, for example, right, Alex Hormozy made $100 million using this YouTube strategy, and I copied it to make $1 million for myself. Then that works, right? It's you're backing it up with the real outcome. So proof is a little bit different if you look at than authority. Authority is more about you and specifically what you've done, right? It's essentially listing your credentials, but proof is a bit different because it's more variable in the way that you can work with it. Then we have plan or preview. So plan or preview is basically giving people a quick roadmap or tease what they're going to get from watching. So in this intro format, right, the promise, proof, plan, or promise, pain, proof, plan, preview, we have more options for what we can do, but it's also more complicated again for that reason. So a quick roadmap essentially could be like, so we're going to talk about A, B, C, D, E. We're going to talk about A, B, C, but without D and E. That's also another way that you can do it. But essentially you want to just give them the plan or the preview of what they're gonna get. So this could be like, this YouTube strategy gets you clients in 7 days. You can close your first client with YouTube without going viral. I've seen 25 different beginners with less than 500 subscribers do this in under 7 days, right? So I've seen, not I've helped. I've helped becomes more boasty, right? This is more I've seen. So let me show you how you can do it in just 3 hours a week, right? And in this case, typically when you have plan, you want to visually show it because it's just, you show people what they're gonna get. You don't have to verbally say it sometimes. You can show it. Another example is how I made $10,000 from one YouTube video. So most people post 20 videos and still hear crickets. So this is more pain, right? But this 8-minute video made me $10,000 in sales and only got 900 views. Proof. Then preview is, here are the 3 things that I do differently with the script to turn views into DMs. So show it visually on screen as a blueprint, right? So the 3 things I do differently with the script to turn views into DMs, right? So 3 things are going to be shown on the screen, but maybe they're blurred out, or they're shown, in a way that you cannot completely understand what they are. Because if you did, then it won't be a preview, it will be an answer. You don't want to have an answer, you want to have a preview. So that is the intro. 2 frameworks, you can use either of them depending on your context of the video. And then we want to have the call to action at the end, be following a certain few rules, but just not the end, even the beginning one, right? So let's talk about the call to action. So you want to think of your call to actions as integrations, not interruptions. Very important. You don't want it to be like, so let me just stop talking about this and let's talk about my program where I help you, blah, blah, blah. No, this is an interruption. This is like you're watching a show and you're like, shit, ads came. Which is when you used to watch TV with television, not with Netflix. But essentially, it's like that, right? An interruption. Or you're watching YouTube and you have ads because you're not paying for premium. It's an interruption. It's not an integration. You don't feel like, oh, I didn't even realize there was an ad. But that's how you want people to feel, right? It should feel integrated. It should feel like the logical next step. It should not feel like a sales pitch thrown inside. So the early call to action, the first 25% to 30% of your video is usually only for people who are making videos that are not taught. It's for longer videos. But you can also experiment with having integrations if your integration is completely not interruptive at all, right? So for example, if you're like, let's say I'm talking about my intro framework. I'm like, oh, wait, quickly, let me just search for it on my school where I actually have a bunch of different frameworks and principles like this for all the different factors about YouTube. And not just YouTube, I also have some frameworks for other stuff. See how this is an integration? It's not an interruption, right? It's a slight tangent, but it doesn't feel like a different thing. But it is. It's a call to action, right? It's like, I'm teasing the fact that I have some places you can buy from me, where I have a coaching offer, where I work with people to help them grow their YouTube channels, but not for my agency, but just me personally, right? Just give you advice, you and your team, and so they can just use that advice to implement for themselves. So that's an integration, right? Now, if I were to say the whole thing as a call to action, in the middle, it's very disruptive. It's not like, oh, by the way, on my school, I've got a lot of different trainings and stuff like that, you should buy from me because I'll coach you, I'll guide you, I'll help your team, blah, blah. Just, it's so disruptive. Alex Hormozy also said this, by the way. He said that when he switched from giving a shout out to his book in his videos to just opening up the book and showing you, by the way, on the page 37 of my $100 million offers book, I talk about this a little bit more. You see how it's an integration, right? Or it's like he'll be like, oh, by the way, this is the line that I talked about, this particular principle that we're talking about in this video. You see how it's an integration? It doesn't feel like it's disrupting because it feels like the logical, natural next step to take. And that's how your call to action should be, right? They should not feel like call to actions. Unless it's the end of the video, there it's justified because people expect it. And that's fine. But in the initial part of the video, you don't want to have a call to action that feels like a salesy pitch. So this is how we do it, right? We give it as an insight. And Hormozi said that when he did this, he got 4 times more book sales from YouTube directly because he just switched from giving a call to action, a sales pitch for his book, to just showing that, he has more of this information in the book. Then your final call to action is going to be very deep, specific. It's going to call out exactly who it's for and what happens next. So you can do like, if you're a coach, consultant, agency, service provider doing under 20K a month and you want YouTube to become your #1 client machine, click the link in the description and we're going to have a 20 to 30 minute call. Or you can DM me the word YouTube on my Instagram and I'll send you all the details, right? So this is a call to action. It's very much like who this is for, who this is not for. You want to have it that way. Now, there is another call to action style, which I don't recommend for the most part because it just slows down your sales cycle a bit more. But you can do where you just push people to watch another YouTube video, which is more salesy in nature, right? So it's like, by the way, if you like this video, you also like this other one where I talk about the one big mistake that most people make with their brand and how to fix it and how to actually generate another $100,000 for your brand with just that one mistake being fixed in just a couple days. And that video is typically going to be a more of breaking down your offer, explaining what people do. It's more of a VSL style YouTube video where it's a bit more salesy. But I do not recommend doing this early on because what if your VSL is not good because you don't know what a good VSL is like? Or what if your, whatever camera quality is not good, whatever, you're going to end up making a VSL that you're going to keep throwing traffic to that doesn't convert. So it's better to just have more chances at converting somebody by having call to actions in every single video. Now, just some couple practical tips for your scripts, right? Don't script word for word because it sounds robotic. Instead, you want a fully scripted hook, completely, the whole thing. You want to have your call to actions also completely worded, and then you want to have your transitions also completely fully scripted because those are the most important things. Then the rest of it, you can have bullet points and prompts for yourself like I do here. If you see my screen, right, it's, yes, some things are, written word for word, but for the most part, it's just bullet points and prompts for me to speak in my natural speaking tone and my natural voice. Now, finally, let's talk about the ChatGPT script writing technique. So very simple, right? That's why I kept it for the end. You just want to pick your 3 direct competitors, 2 adjacent competitors, and your 2 alternate competitors in your niche. And you can use YouTube's built-in transcription tools. For example, let's say I want to transcribe this video. What I'm going to do is open YouTube on my PC, go down, click on transcript. So it will show me the transcript. And then I just like copy paste the transcript. And essentially I just copy paste like these, maybe 20 or 30 transcripts in total, right? So 3 competitors who are direct, 2 adjacent, and 2 alternative. So that's 7 competitors. Either I'll throw all of this into a document, 7 competitors, each of their, let's say, top 5 videos in the last 1 year or in the last 6 months, even if that's possible. Top 5 videos from each. So you have 35 videos, boom, paste it into one document. And you can either study the scripts yourself, which I recommend doing at least a little bit, at least study the first 30 seconds because the intro matters a lot. And once you understand basically you watch these 35 intros, 30 seconds each, it's not going to take you too long, maybe like mathematically 18 to 19 minutes. And that's going to be enough for you to understand what these people are doing, right? And you can measure it against the 2 principles I gave you, the 2 frameworks I gave you. And for the most part, most people will end up following these frameworks, whether they psychologically do it, subconsciously do it or consciously do it, right? Or they just paid somebody. So yeah, so you want to study the first 30 seconds as much as you possibly can for each of these videos. And that can just be just watching it once and being like, okay, he kind of followed the DAP, right? So he authority, desire, prompt. And then you want to paste it all into one document and you want to ask ChatGPT to analyze all these scripts together to find commonalities. So you want to give it a prompt and you want to ask it to be like, analyze the sentence structure and length, analyze the hook order, right? In what order are they doing the hook? Like what frameworks are they following? How are they doing the hook? You want to give it as much information on what you exactly want as output. But essentially I write something like this, right? Sentence structure and length, hook order, psychological triggers, frameworks used, how long was each segment overall, how long till they open the first loop, where the first call to action was placed, how they moved from the intro to the first point. You want to as many points as you can, right? So, your psychological psychological biases, the psychological frameworks, the triggers, there's NLP triggers, there's so many things you can essentially list down and ask it to break down. But the more things you list, the more surface level it's going to say. So I recommend doing each thing one by one, really, because you're pasting 35 scripts. So that's kind of how I do it, right? Because you don't want to copy the words of your competitors. You want to copy the moves. You want to copy what works. You don't want to copy them and become them, because it's not cheating, it's chess. That's what ChatGPT said. I didn't write that. Then you ask ChatGPT to give you a complete outline of your video with each segment listed. Let me show you what that kind of looks like. So this is kind of it's going to be long because I gave it a lot of information on what I wanted, because the more information you give it, the more it will understand what you want, right? So for this video specifically, because it's a very, 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 very long video. And so the amount of information I gave it is this. So you see how I gave it? Can you deeply analyze these 2 full-length course videos that have been uploaded to YouTube, blah, blah, blah. I gave it a whole prompt. And then I said, take all of this information that I have written down, and also I recorded some voice messages to myself on Slack. You see how these 5-minute voice notes about each segment, how I want it to be, right? It's very long. But of course, this video is very long, so it's kind of needs to have all the information, right? Then I asked it, okay, now give me a full structure. So it gives me, let me see, what did I exactly say? Should have said something probably like, give me a full structure for this video. Take all this and give me the structure now for a 2 to 3 hour course video, right? So it's because I've given it context, I've given it scripts, it kind of knows what to do now. And so I'll scroll down, right? And I ask it, okay, here's the course structure. It gives you module 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I said, I just rearranged the modules a bit. So let's do module 1 inside module 6. Module 0 should only be 4 minutes. Rest all looks good. Give me final structure now. Also, I don't think module 0 should be 10 to 15 minutes based on how the inspo channels did it. Then they took way lesser time, right? So yeah, it's a little bit of back and forth, but of course it gives you a structure. And then I ask it, okay, so what all did the competitors do well that isn't being done here? Because the competitors' videos, there's a lot of content there, so it's going to end up missing some of the things, right? So it's, we're just asking it again, what did they do that we didn't do? Now I ask it, okay, now give me the full module 0, first 30 seconds word for word, and then the rest has detailed bullet points, blah, blah, blah. So it gives me the full module 0, which is the intro section. Now module 1 needs to be hyper detailed bullets. Give me first half of the bullets for module 1 first. So it's very simple. It gives me the bullets and then it gives me the second half of the bullets. So it's just like this, each module has 2 segments, and then I'm just like asking it for more and more. I just repeat some of the information back to it because it's going to end up forgetting as the chat gets longer and longer. So just repeat the information of each module, right? What is required, what is not required. And that's essentially just how the script works. It's not rocket science. It's simple, but it's not easy because it takes time. No matter how much I thought this would take me 2 or 3 hours to script out, it took me well over 20 hours in total, because the back and forth takes a lot of time. And then that itself took maybe 2 or 3 hours because it just takes so much time to generate so much information. And then it's like at least 15 hours of just editing the script down, because a lot of information is not 100% accurate, which is why, like, you see, I linked some of the documents, I changed a lot of the information, added my own thoughts and stuff like that. So essentially you want to do something along those lines. Now, one thing I would recommend doing, once you have finalized the whole structure, you want to ask for 3 intro options word for word with the transition statement into segment 1 for each of them, and you want to do this because if you ask for one option, right, it's never going to be perfect. So if you have 3 options, you can be like, okay, I like this part, this part, this part, combine it together. That's what I do. The same goes for call to action, and you want to ask for each segment one by one as a separate message, and finally end with 3 final outro options with call to action embedded, and that's it. Now, very important to remember, this takes about 2 hours if you don't know what you want to do, sometimes longer. So the thing is that you either spend time planning the structure or you spend time correcting ChatGPT, right? You can choose based on how your brain works best for you. For example, for me, I rather have my thoughts out there first so that the structure itself is correct, rather than just asking it to give me something and then I keep correcting. But that depends on you. Are you more of somebody who works better with giving criticism, or you work better with coming up with ideas? For my case, I am better at coming up with ideas, so I prefer to do it that way. Which is why I spent an hour sending audio messages to myself on Slack and then pasted it into ChatGPT like I showed you. Then another hour to get back what I wanted essentially. Then another 6 to 8 hours to correct everything to my liking, which is wrong. This is until I had reached this part of the script, but there's, a lot more to go. So it took me a total of about 12 to 15 hours, I would say. So that's basically how you script out your content. Now, at this point, you've already got your research, strategy, ideas, title, thumbnail, scripts, and you should be ready to record because you know how to hook your viewers, you know how to keep them watching with open loops, and you know how to naturally move them into your call to action. But even the best script will not convert if you don't film and edit your video in the right way. So let's quickly chat about how the setup, the equipment, and the video actually works in the fastest and most efficient way possible. I will say this to preface everything, stop overcomplicating your production. You don't need a studio background. You don't need a DSLR camera. You don't need a $5,000 setup to start. If you look at this setup that I have going on right now, you will laugh at me because all I have is my phone recording me. I have my laptop in front of me, which is essentially my screen, my teleprompter. I have my mouse here, and I have my parents' living room because I'm here for a holiday. And I don't even have a light source, just have tube lights at the top and sunlight coming from a window right there. And that's my whole setup. Right? My laptop is placed on top of two chairs. Two chairs on the top here because I don't have a place to place the laptop here. I don't have a table that high, but you can make do with anything. I recorded for years with a phone, and I still do this sometimes when I don't have my DSLR with, right? So you don't need a fancy schmancy equipment. You just need a phone with a tripod stand for your phone, and those are very cheap. Now, the thing is that most people end up wasting time waiting for the perfect setup, and they'll waste 6 months, 12 months. They're like, oh, my background doesn't look super nice. Well, so what? You can rearrange a few things and make it look clean enough for now. Because if you waste 6 months, you might end up losing 20 potential clients you'll never get. You're going to lose them to your competitors, the ones who might even be worse at their job than you. Because at the end of the day, the message clarity matters more than the gear quality. You know, your studio quality matters lesser. It's the message clarity that matters. Alex Hormozy filmed hundreds of videos in his basement. If you remember that setup, it didn't look anything crazy. It was nothing at all. There was no authority in how he looked, in how his background looked. You know, he looked like he could be living in his parents' basement. Because at the end of the day, what matters is the information you give out to people, and that's what's going to make them trust you. It's not the setup. So the setup that I told you about, well, this is it. You know, this is what I have going on right now. I'm filming essentially these videos with wearing my shorts. My laptop is up here, and my phone is recording me. And there's, you know, just a light source on the left side, and that's it. And that's essentially just how simple things can be. You can use a fucking chair, you know, to make your laptop stand somewhere high up. And that's basically all you need, right? You don't need to overcomplicate your thing. So this is the easiest setup you can have. Your iPhone or Android on tripod, more than enough. You want to have a webcam if you want to. So it can be a Logitech 4K webcam or even max continuity camera. You'll have pro level quality pretty easily. You want to have natural light, you know, either you can face towards a window or you can have it about 45 degrees from you, which is what I have. You can also buy a ring light, which costs about $20 to have it 45 degrees from you, so that you'll have a light that falls from one side. I don't like this lighting setup, by the way, but I don't have anything else here because there's a lot of shadow on my face because of the tube light on top, which is never ideal. But sometimes what can you do? You know, in this case, it's the bare minimum I can do, and that's all I have, and so I'm just going to use it. Then, in terms of audio, you can do two different things. Either you can record audio from your mobile, which is, my mobile is recording audio, plus I'm having my $20 Razer mic plugged into my laptop, maybe $25. So this is a Razer mic plugged into the laptop. That's what's recording the audio. And regardless of what mic you use, you can use podcast.adobe.com to sound like studio because it's going to clear up all the background noise and hissing noise and stuff like that. If you are using a webcam, you can use even your Android or iPhone phone screen. You can use your mic, everything. You can connect it to your laptop and record your video on this free software called OBS. So obsproject.com, and that's it. That's how my setup looks, you know. Now, couple filming fundamentals, right? Try to keep your eye as close to the camera level. A couple quick tips. So you want to keep your angle eye level or a little bit above eye level, and make sure you have a tripod. Don't keep it handheld and, you know, wobble around. It just looks very unprofessional. You want to make your background clean and uncluttered because your face and authority is the focus. The background should not distract people. It should not have too many moving things, you know, moving lights, stuff like that is a bit distracting. Or if you have like children running around or something, you know, don't record there. Just very distracting because you want people to focus on you, not on the things around you. The things around you are just subtly there to influence your perception, but in this case, nothing really influences your perception. It's just a hall. Now, in terms of energy, this is very, very, very important. You want to have 1.3x your natural tone because on camera, you always look flatter. Now, I will say this, I'm a very introverted person by nature. I don't have many friends. I don't like to talk to random people. So this is not that introverts cannot be on camera, right? That's a stupid thing. the most successful people in the world are introverts. Introversion is not a bad thing. It's just being conscious of yourself is the issue. This is why you want to up your energy level a little bit. So you want to play yourself up for camera, but you're not playing yourself up. Think of it like when you're a bit excited, how do you talk? That's kind of how you want to do, right? When you're passionate about what you're talking about, when you're excited about what you're talking about, whether you're talking to your partner, to your best friend, to what, that's kind of the level you want to keep. You don't want to overblow it. You don't want to be like, oh my God, I'm going to... Please don't do that. That is what I used to do when I used to make videos 10 years ago, but it just was never me. But I was like 16 years old, so it kind of can come across as authentic, but it wasn't authentic, right? That's not how I was. And that was just me playing a character for the camera, which is something I recommend doing as well. If you think you're not able to get comfortable being yourself, then think of it being a different version of you or a character you're playing, right? So you want to bring out like a character. So some people, think of like, okay, I'm going to be like my best friend. My best friend is a little bit more energetic, a little bit more blah, blah, blah. Or you want to think of like, I want to be a more bold version of myself. I want to be a more, whatever version. You can give it a name. You can give it some character traits and try to play into that character. For me, because I've been doing this for a very long time, this comes naturally, just speaking a little bit more enthusiastically, more energetically. If I talked how I normally talk, it would be like, so your energy levels, your natural tone, it matters, but on camera, you always look flatter. You see how there's a bit of a difference, right? I do sometimes naturally fall back into that pattern when I'm, sitting down and talking for so long. But for the most part in this video, you'll see that for the most part, my energy levels is a bit higher than, not a bit, but it's like 1.3x to be specific, because you don't want to be like 2 times. It just is quite a lot. You want to be 1.3x is the right amount. Now there's some quick tips on how to set up your background as well, because I have infinite resources on things like this. So I'll show you one that I made, I don't know how long ago, maybe like 3 years ago, I think at this point, when I got my first client at this point. So ensure your background is interesting and gives off the vibe that you want to portray. Now, the more successful you are, the more you want to focus on this, because you are exuding luxury, you're exuding certain, inviting, successful, inspiring, productive, those sort of vibes. So you want to have things that, align with that. Now, the reason my background works is because it's not wrong. It's not deviating from those thoughts that I want to invoke in you, those emotions I want to invoke in you, those feelings I want to invoke in you. But it's also not adding to it because it's just a plain background, right? If you look at my other videos, my actual setup, when I'm back home, in Malaysia, my setup is a lot more, it's got books, it's got plants, it's got like a whole wooden background. It just exudes more premium, more luxury, more authority, even if that's not me, right? But it exudes those things. But that is me. That's how I am. It resonates with me. Therefore, it should resonate ideally with people. Now, you see how the setup in this image that I'm showing you is filled with different background textures and layers. So it makes the room look bigger and adds more depth. And it screams words like classy and rich because of the way she's dressed, because of the way that, the background looks and everything, right? So you want to ensure that you're always in the center of the frame. Otherwise, it can get very distracting and uncomfortable for the human eye, right? You don't want it to be like, I am sitting here. It looks weird. In this case, Elaine, this is in the masterclass that she did. She's the center of attention and feels like the authority figure. It's much easier to be trusted because of that as well. And you want to ensure that your arms are always in the frame, because arms are very, very, very important in being able to trust somebody, right? So if you think about, let's say somebody is hiding their hands, how do you feel? You feel like they might have a gun. They're going to surprise you with something, right? You cannot fully trust them. If you don't know the person, you're going to be like, fuck, what do they have hiding behind? It could be a knife, it could be a gun. That's just where your mind goes. So naturally, not seeing somebody's hands for your brain just makes you a bit uncomfortable. You don't trust them fully, which is why you see the biggest YouTubers, right? They have a setup that's far away. They have their hands either on a table or something. In this case, I don't have a table, so I'm just sitting in this way. But you see how I'm moving my hands, always showing them to you. It's never like I'm just talking like this, even though I could just place my mic on something. I'm just not doing because it just seems more natural, seems more inviting, because I want to invoke those feelings. Want to make you feel like I'm at your level. I'm talking to you not as a super authoritative figure. I want to feel like, I'm at your level, right? Because I'm talking to people who are also successful. So same level. There's a lot of other psychological principles, but ensure there's some empty space above your head. It gives you a more trustworthy vibe. But in this case, because Elaine is doing a more authoritative thing. She has to be completely covering because it just seems more authoritative. If you want to have a more humble, trustworthy vibe, you want to have some space above your head, which is why you see I have space. Therefore, my face is more in the middle, a little bit above the middle line. It's purposely done that way. Use a bright source of light. That's something we talked about. But essentially, these are some just a couple background things. There's a bunch of other things I could talk about that is here, but I won't. All right, let's go back. Now, let's talk about the editing of your content. So there are really a couple different editing levels. I prefer to stick between two of them only, but there's a very, very, very advanced editing level, which sometimes Iman Gadzi used to use at least. Alex Hormozy had it for like about a couple months, but they've gone back down to the switching between basic and professional edits. Okay, so I'll stick to those two because for the most part, most people only want to be there. So there's the first one, which is a basic edit, and that looks something like this. So I have a video that I made, it's something like this, a basic edit, right? You want to have a couple edits here and there, some text. When you skip the video around, then after that, there's just nothing going on, just some text here and there to highlight the important parts, It's nothing super fancy, nothing super crazy, right? It's just the simplest, most important stuff only. You want to just cut out dead air, filler words. You want to add text highlights for key phrases, and you want to have something that's good enough for Loom style screen shares, And you want to just basically just focus on the important parts, cut down the air and make the intro shorter wherever necessary, cut down the video wherever possible, but relatively basic in terms of editing. Now, the black and white is just something I was trying for a while. It didn't work super well, so I'm going to stop doing it. But that was something I was trying, the basic edits for a while, right? So you want to use these more for Loom style screen shares as well, or stuff like this. For the most part, I don't need editing in content like this because there's a screen that is being shown, so the screen is the focus. You don't need to have fancy edits for the most part, apart from the intro. Intro is always important. Then there's the other level, which is professional edit level. So this is something more like, with more graphics, you've got more stuff. This is more professional. This is not premium. This is still more professional. It's not perfect. There's a lot better stuff that we have done, that we do, that you can see in a lot of different places. But if I was to fast forward this, you can see, the graphics, the edits. There's a lot that's going on here, but that's the goal. But it's still not a lot. I mean, if I show you what a lot looks like, that would be something like, so this is what a premium edit would look like, right? This is level 3. You see you've got these things happening. I'll fast forward a bit more so you can see it. Yeah. So this is what more premium edits look like. It's a lot more editing that we do. We do this for a couple clients. For the most part, we don't do this, but this is something that you can do. It's just a lot more cinematic in its nature. It's a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Just requires a lot more time and effort and frankly revenue to be spent, money to be spent on videos like this. But you can do these. These look awesome. They definitely establish you as an authority immediately because people are like, how the fuck would a guy who has no money be able to do this, right? Be able to afford something like this. So those are the 3 editing types essentially, and you can choose whichever one you want to do. But the professional edits are great for most content as it's most likely to hold attention long enough, right? It's not level 3, which is super cinematic content, but it works. Now, there's a couple principles for retention editing like this. So you can choose between level 1 and level 2, whichever one you prefer. You can also do level 3 if you really want to. It just costs you 4 to 5 times more, very honestly. But the thing is that editing is not about looking cinematic. It's about buying attention per second. Attention per second is important because every second matters when your video is short. When your video is longer, well, every minute matters, right? You can't overemphasize each second. But if you have like anything below 20 minutes, every second matters. You want to cut out anything that's not important, because the more you cut out, the more people will stay, the more they'll watch, the more they'll keep watching, the more they'll buy. Very simple. Every 10 seconds should have an edit. If you're doing proper retention edits, every 10 seconds should have something happening, something moving, something, for the most part, because if there's no movement or change, you want to have something there. You want to cut it down. And you want to have pattern interrupts. So you want to have B-rolls, zooms, text pops, meme clips, every 20 to 40 seconds if you're doing a level 2 edit for your content, and always cut into action, not out of it. So what this means is, you want to keep flow very tight. You don't want to go from having content that is doing nothing. So, let's say you're sitting and talking just like this, right? It's very low energy. Nothing is happening. You don't want to add clips or B-roll footage. B-roll basically means extra footage you add on top. like a second layer of footage. So it's, if you add like clips, if you add like memes, that's B-roll. You don't want to add B-roll that is also doing nothing. You want to cut into action, right? Cut into the action. You want to add action. You don't want to remove it. You don't want to get out of it. And if your edit feels slow, your viewers will leave. That's why if they don't watch your content, they're never going to watch the CTS. So it's important to have your edits good enough for people to care and to stay. Now, here's how to delegate editing, because obviously I would not recommend doing your own edits yourself. But essentially, there's a very, very, very major problem. Just like this with thumbnails, the same exact problem with editing, but it's even more pronounced because there's more video editors. So when hiring random people from Twitter, from Fiverr, from wherever, they know how to use Adobe editing softwares. They don't know how to edit for human psychology. Now, the editing for human psychology is very hard because the only way you can do it is if you know human psychology. The only way you can do that is, well, if you've studied it. And for the most part, the only people who have studied it for content are people who have been in the content game for a very long time. So the reason that I'm able to understand editing psychology, even without being a pro video editor, even though that's how I started my career after I quit YouTube, I was a video editor, right? So I know how editing works. I've just never done it for several years now because I have a team of people I've trained to do it better than I can ever do it. But essentially, the reason I understand it is because I've studied retention graphs. I'm like, okay, if I do edit like this is what happens to retention. If I say this word, this is what happens. If I say the word pee or poop or piss, whatever, for no reason whatsoever, it'll always reduce retention. It'll always get people to stop watching, even if it's adults. So there's certain things, certain triggers, certain visual elements that you don't want to use and certain elements you want to use. And you need to know how to use them, when to use them, where to use them, and in what way to use them. And you also want to know what to cut, when to cut, and why to cut. Most people end up just replicating somebody else. They're like, oh, Iman Ghazi edits videos like this, I will edit videos like this, right? That's what most editors do. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Therefore, they're never going to do it properly, right? They're like, I hired a new editor recently and I ended up making a video that's like about 40 minutes long. And I told him, cut it down to 20 minutes. He didn't know what to do. He's like, but you're speaking throughout the video. I'm like, yeah, but it's not all important. I overspoke because I didn't have a structure for the video. So that's why having a structure is important, and giving your editor as much information of what you want is important. But an editor can only do as well as they know. And they cannot edit for retention. They might add up fancy things, they'll add sound effects and stuff, but sometimes those sound effects and fancy things end up taking people away from the video, not making people want to watch the video. So that's very important. So instead of hiring random people, I would recommend, well, first of all, making sure that your editor passes this checklist, because 90% of editors are shit, so on YouTube, you're not merely competing against other creators, you're up against life's distractions, So you have to think about it like this, right? It's not just that your content needs to be better than your competitors. It needs to be better than the other things people could do with their time. Let's say you're watching this video and a WhatsApp notification comes, or you get a call. The video should be so good that you're like, I'm not going to not pick up the call because I need to watch the video. I'm not gonna reply to this WhatsApp notification because I'm not gonna open the Instagram notification because I'm watching this video. That's the goal of your content, is to make it so good that people hang on to every second. But you can only do this when you're capturing attention in a way that you're fighting for every second. So the editor that you're working with should have a deep understanding of all of these things, right? Why is the exact moment of your intro crucial? How do you create an irresistible hook from the footage you thought lacked one? Let's say I make a video and it has no hook. That's good. How can my editor make a good hook out of it, right? That's something editors can do if they know how to do it. What background music will set the mood just right? This is so important. You don't realize how much background music scores matter, but when you watch a good movie, you watch a Christopher Nolan movie, you realize how much the score, the background music adds to the emotion you're going to feel. The emotion can only be felt when your content has the right sound. When should sound effects chime in to uphold your brand image, and how to make them uphold your brand image? Don't add random memes, don't add a disruptive sound effects, because all of these things, these memes and stuff, they're not great for you. For the most part, I don't add memes into my content because they make you seem lower authority. But most editors don't know that, because they edit how they edit for everybody. They don't realize that gaming videos are to be edited differently than authority videos like these. Do they know which algorithm works, what CTR matters, how to keep the viewer hooked, ensure that the video lingers in their mind, compelling them to return even amidst life's clamor. So I have like a whole ass checklist, like, do they understand your audience demographics? Do they engage the mind? Do they technically understand Adobe, but are they genuinely engaged in understanding the viewer psyche? Do they have diverse audience demand tricks up their sleeve? Do they know when to cut the intro? Do they know how to do the hook? Do they know when to add music? Do they know how to strategically use sound effects? Do they know how to strategically cut your content? Do they know all of this stuff, right? They need to know, there's so many things. But basically, you want to have an editor who knows these things, because otherwise you're going to end up wasting so much time just giving feedback. And so I would recommend instead, if you want a video editor for around $200 to $50, maybe $300 max per video, depends a lot on what you want from your content, right? What kind of level of editing. You can DM me on Twitter or on Instagram, the word editor, and I can send you some editors that I know, depending a lot on your budget, of course. But I know a bunch of people. I've trained a bunch of people, plus I know others that I haven't hired that you can also hire if you want to. Now that you've built your system to film and edit videos that actually hold attention, well, none of that would matter if you don't upload your content in the right way. So let's now talk about exactly how YouTube SEO works and how to exactly distribute content using the exact workflow that we use, from upload settings to keyword optimization to a secret trick that gets your videos ranked on search results within both YouTube and Google. Let's talk about it. And also let's talk about how to distribute your content across different platforms. And also we'll talk about how to repurpose your YouTube videos onto every single platform on social media without lifting a finger yourself. You can just use your VA or AI to do it. So this is a step that, in my opinion, 80 to 90% of creators actually mess up, because they end up spending so much time scripting, filming, editing, and then they ruin it all when they're uploading. If you or your social media manager get this wrong, the algorithm buries you deep. If you get it right, you can rank on YouTube and Google and even in ChatGPT for months or even years. Now imagine if somebody searches up on ChatGPT how to grow on YouTube and your video pops up. That's it, man. That's it. That's kind of what you want to do, right? It's not easy, of course, because it depends on a lot of different factors. But one of the factors is just how you upload the content. And that's the main factor, really. So let's talk about how to make every video become a sales asset that works for you for years, not just a few days, a few weeks, a few months. So for this, we'll talk about YouTube SEO in general, right? So what is SEO? Well, it's basically search engine optimization. It's about optimizing your videos to be catered to what people are searching for, right? It's the easiest of the three main YouTube algorithms to conquer. We'll talk about the algorithms later. But there are a few big misconceptions about YouTube SEO. The first one being that people think your SEO is all about the title, description, and tag. Well, it's not. Because here are all the factors that actually YouTube considers when pushing your video into the search algorithm. Now, YouTube doesn't exactly push your video, but that's a whole different thing. So, your title, description, subtitles, chapters, tags, education category. These are the 6 most important factors for what YouTube looks at to decide whether your video is worth promoting for certain keywords or not, okay? Whether it's worth ranking or not. Then it also looks like thumbnail, text, and visuals, channel tags, channel about page, and the playlist that you have. At least the first 6 you need to do really well. The rest 4 are not super important, but they still help. So why SEO, right? YouTube views are unpredictable. SEO makes it predictable. We focus 50% of our clients' videos on getting views from SEO, especially with a new channel. And it's easier to get leads because people are actively searching for a solution. So what is search algorithm, right? It's one of the 3 main algorithms. Basically, we made this video for our client that got 23,000 views in 10 months. It had only 2,000 views in the first month. It ranked for how to set up events and conversions was for GA4. So on his channel with 2K views, he had less than 1K subs, and this video had 1K views in the first month, 1K, 1,000 views. But this has gotten him views, subscribers, and leads on autopilot because, well, 23,000 views from your ideal clients, beats everything else, right? So here's how to beat this search algorithm. First, you want to do keyword research. Now, your goal is to figure out the top 5 keywords people are searching for using search volume and how many YouTubers are using these keywords using the competition framework. So if you use vidIQ, which is what I recommend using, there's an affiliate link that I have that you can check from the link in description. It's only $10 a month for vidIQ. It's a keyword inspector tool, right? So it basically gives you, so let's say I search for YouTube SEO. It says that the search volume is 230,000 per month and the competition level is low. Means that there's less people making content about this topic. Now, this is when I made this SEO masterclass. At this time of this recording, that's not the case. But back then, when I made this masterclass about a year and a half ago, this was the case. Now, that's the first thing, right? So you want to basically search up your niche, in different ways. You want to figure out the different keywords that essentially you will be targeting. So you want to find the top 5 keywords and you want to see how much competition is there. So low or very low are ideal. Search volume, anything above 10,000 is good enough. Anything below that becomes too niche usually. But 5,000 also works. If a lot of YouTubers are using a keyword, there's no point because your videos will not rank high because you're starting off YouTube, right? So you want to instead use the keywords that have 5,000 plus search volume and low or very low competition. And because when you know what keywords to target before filming an educational video, you can make just better content to align more with that keyword to get searched. And you want to stack them everywhere possible in your content. You want to have them in your scripts, your intro scripts and stuff. You want to think about basically the common questions, problems in your niche and use those as keywords, right? So you can sort overall score on vidIQ from high to low, and it'll give you basically, in the easiest way possible, the best keywords. But for the most part, don't use anything that has not low or very low competition. If you use medium, you're not going to be able to rank because you don't have a big enough channel. And very important, you want to ensure that your script, your first 30 seconds of your video, incorporate the top 2 to 3 keywords into the spoken word of the video, right? So when I made a video about this in June 2022, YouTube SEO, I had 2 sentences in the beginning, which is I own a YouTube channel with almost 50,000 subscribers, blah, blah, blah. Then I have YouTube SEO as a keyword, these two times here. YouTube SEO, SEO, search engine optimization, YouTube keyword research. I have multiple keywords you see listed down there. Then in your title, you want to have 1 or 2 broad keywords, which is the highest search volume with low competition keywords that you can possibly get. So for example, that I made a video about YouTube algorithm. So I have YouTube algorithm in the title, YouTube algorithm 2024, YouTube algorithm 2024, 2 different title options, both of them have it. Then the script itself starts with YouTube algorithm. What is the YouTube algorithm? How does it work? Blah, blah, blah. So I said YouTube algorithm 2 times. And this video got me 970 views when I had less than 200 subscribers, and it made me quite a lot of money. Extra 1.6K in MRR for my one-on-one coaching program, which is pretty good for a new channel, right? Then your video description should also have essentially the same keywords as many times as possible, but you want to do it a bit differently, where you have the top 5 keywords as many times as possible while writing in natural sentences. If it's not natural sentences, YouTube will think of it as a bot content. YouTube doesn't want to promote stuff that is AI generated stuff, really, or made by bots. Especially the main keyword from the title should be mentioned 2 or 3 times, right? So if you look here, I've underlined YouTube algorithm, YouTube algorithm, YouTube algorithm, YouTube algorithm 2023, YouTube algorithm, blah, blah, blah. Then in the description, if you're making a long video, you want to have chapters like this. And the chapters also should have the same keywords embedded as much as possible, because then you rank on Google, not just on YouTube. Then your video tags, again, basically should have the same thing. You want to have the first, add all the keywords you already mentioned in the title, description, or chapters. Then you want to use vidIQ to add more relevant but broad keywords like YouTube video SEO, YouTube SEO course, YouTube algorithm. Lastly, you want to have 2 to 3 keywords mentioning your channel name and industry. So it's, Mihir Narula, YouTube, beat the YouTube algorithm, like broad key. Then you want to have subtitles uploaded to your video. Ensure you do always when you have a long video, at least for the first 1 minute. And trust me, don't skip this. It seems unnecessary, but it's not. It really, really, really does help, because your intro has the keywords, and if you add subtitles that are manually written, it really helps. Then, you see how I have it, 9 algorithms mentioned everywhere. I only did the first 30 seconds of the video because it's a 55-minute long video. And I'm not going to write that much, but at least the first 30 seconds, you or your social media manager can do that. And then the category optimization. This is important. This is specifically what makes you rank on Google. So, when you search up on Google a topic and you find YouTube videos, that's because of this. You want to choose your category as education, make the content how-to when you have a how-to video. And you want to basically paste your chapters, right? The same chapters as above that we did, where it's like timestamp, chapter, timestamp, heading, right? You want to have that here as well, because that's what makes you rank on Google. But only the most important ones, because this one is not super long in how much length of characters it allows. So you want to only focus on the main ones. So that's why I have how many YouTube algorithms are there. What is a YouTube algorithm? The 3 YouTube algorithms: YouTube homepage algorithm, YouTube suggested video algorithm, right? So it's only algorithm focused. Now, thumbnail very much matters, because YouTube micro analyzes each element in your thumbnail. When you upload a thumbnail, it looks at all of these things. It can read all of the text, no matter what kind of font you use. Even if you look at this, even the hyper small text on Hormozi's nose strip saying B1 of 0 can be read by the thumbnail. You can try this API yourself. By the way, it's Google Cloud Vision. It's called. You can look at it yourself to see how YouTube looks at your thing. There's some advanced SEO tactics like playlists, so you can similarly put together multiple videos into one playlist, and these videos can be grouped together for a certain topic, and so the whole playlist can become searchable by itself, like YouTube SEO video marketing playlist by somebody else. You can also use channel tags, which are general tags around your whole industry, and you can have your channel tags also in your about section of your channel. Now that we talked about exactly how to do the SEO of your YouTube videos, let's talk about some other key things you need to keep in mind, especially when you're starting your channel from zero. One major issue is most creators upload their first video cold, and when you upload it cold in 2025, YouTube doesn't trust your content, doesn't trust your account, because fact of the matter is that due to AI being there right now, YouTube is more skeptical of every single new account that is posting videos on YouTube. So your videos end up flatlining at 20 views, 50 views, 100 views, and don't grow past that level. And that's only because you need to warm up your content properly. So here's how you do it. Before you upload your first video, spend 3 to 5 days watching 15 to 20 videos in your exact niche from start to finish. So, like have a actual viewing habit like natural human would, not a bot, right? So start watching the video, pause it in the middle, comment something, like something, keep watching, watch another related video from your niche. Just do that. Subscribe to a few channels. This will signal to YouTube that this account belongs in this niche. So what happens when you do that is when you upload your first few videos, YouTube buckets your account with the audience you consume content from. Even though it's unfair, right? Even though I could be watching cooking videos but uploading videos about business growth or YouTube growth or whatever, unfortunately, that's how YouTube is treating stuff right now in 2025. When this happens, your video is more likely to show to the right people immediately. This is why I personally recommend these days starting your channel on an account that you already have owned for a while, because it's more warmed up the longer it has existed. Just the problem is that my personal account, I watch debates about random things. I also watch spirituality content, religious content. I also watch content about business and content creation. I also watch content about the games that I play, so there's so many different things. So if you upload videos from that channel, YouTube will be confused about who your target audience will be, because you yourself consume so many different things, which is why I'd rather recommend, if you don't have an account where you dedicatedly watch business related content, about your niche, your business, then start a new one and wait 3 to 5 days and warm it up by properly, thoroughly watching videos from your competitors and people who are similar to them, right? So adjacent competitors, alternative competitors and direct ones, and then only upload your first video after a few days. So for our client Christian from The Art of Time, his first ever video ended up hitting, over 1,000 views when it was just uploaded. And that's because he's had this account for a very, very, very long time. And so, these kind of things, they really do matter in the short term. There's another hack that I'll give you that frankly nobody in the world talks about, but I've seen a couple people charge thousands of dollars for this one hack alone. And it is the fact that right after you upload a video, get 5 to 10 people in your ideal client persona, so like your clients themselves, to search for your niche on YouTube, filter by recent uploads. So let me show you what this would look like, right? So let's say your niche or your first video is about Facebook ads. What you do is search Facebook ads, go to filters, click on upload date. What that's going to do is it's going to filter by the most recently uploaded videos, like you're saying 6 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, 31 minutes ago, right? So this way you can get people in your niche to search up your exact content. Then you can get them to click and watch your video and keep watching videos in your niche after that. So let's say, right, Facebook ads is the goal. So I find, let's say this was my client's video. It's not, I don't know who this guy is. But I'm going to watch this and then I'm going to scroll down here. I'll click the filter digital marketing so that, okay, Facebook ads, right? So I'll watch this video all the way. Then I'll watch this other video about Facebook ads, and I'll create a watch session like that of 3 to 4 videos where I end up watching similar things. The reason you want to do this, right, is because you signal to YouTube that your video keeps your ideal clients on the platform. And YouTube, at the end of the day, cares not about how many views you get, how many subscribers you get, how long people watch your video. Although they do care about those things, but what they really care about is how long people stay on the platform because of you. So you want to make content that gets people to stay on the platform. And the easiest way to signal that or hack the algorithm early on is to give it some false data that your ideal clients or people in your niche are watching your video and then watching other related videos. So therefore, your video is keeping people on the platform. And also, it doubles as another benefit, which is that it tells YouTube exactly who your video is for. Because if your ideal clients watch it, then obviously they are your ideal clients. So it will show it to people who are similar to those people. It'll help also your video rank up higher in search from the get-go. So this is a crazy hack. I mean, we do this for some of our clients when they're not getting views on their videos, but even for my girlfriend who's never uploaded a YouTube video in her life ever before, the video was not getting any views at all, right? So it's started off something like this. She had zero experience, zero editing experience, zero thumbnail experience, zero ideation experience. And the video she uploaded had a very shitty microphone, like truly very, very, very shitty, where the comments were like, my left ear loves this, because there was only audio coming from the left side. Great video, but I think you should tune up your voice or get a better mic. Brother, am I tripping or your video doesn't have a voice? I only hear the music. So it's like all fucked up. But still, the video, basically, this is when I did the thing, and this is basically what happened to the video. You know, it had no views in the first 14 hours, and then I just did the thing, the hack, right? I watched it, me and my friends, a couple of them got on Discord and we watched the video, because we are the ideal target audience for this particular niche. And the video fucking blew up. You know, it started getting views immediately and then blew up a day or so later, right? And her reaction was, what the fuck? Yeah. So this shit works, you know. It got 800 views in the first 42 hours. And then over time, well, I have, it's already at 1.3k views with the shitty audio. So like, imagine if shitty audio is working so well, how much better could the video be with an actually good audio, right? But, you know, like I said to her, remarkable idea plus decent execution is good enough. If your idea is really good, your execution is good enough, YouTube rewards you. Because people don't care about execution as much as they used to. Stupid simple trick as well, right? And then it ended up getting, now it has over 3,000 views at this point. But newbie YouTuber, almost 2,000 views in the first video in a span of 2 weeks. So I cheated the system to blow it up, right? It's very simple. Now, I will say that this is not something that will immediately work for some people. You know, you need to have maybe a couple people watch it. It depends a lot on the niche, depends a lot on the content, depends a lot on how competitive the keyword is, how much you need to do this, how many different people. But one thing I'll preface is never do this yourself from multiple accounts that are your own from your devices, because you're going to get IP flagged. Therefore, the views will not count. Neither any of the metrics will count, right? I've done this a lot of times in the past when I was younger. I didn't know this, and I would always wonder why suddenly the views vanished. Like when I started my first ever channel, I would watch videos from my account, my brother's account, my mom's account, you know, and half a day later or a day later, those views would not be there anymore. And I would be like, fuck, my video went back down to 0 views. So that's because YouTube doesn't really count it, and rather it negatively flags it if you're trying to bot views, you know. You're trying to use scammy methods to give your video views. So therefore, you don't want to do that. You want to make it seem like it's organic and coming from another device and another location. Now, next thing, when you have uploaded your videos, you know, most people end up telling you, focus on click-through rate and average view duration. It's even what YouTube itself shows you, right? So if I go to YouTube Studio on any of my clients' channels or my channel, I go to dashboard, all I see here is views, impressions, click-through rate, and average view duration, right? Now, this video is not performing really well. I know that. It's a 7 out of 10, which means out of the last 10 videos, it's performing 7th. That's not great, but a previous video of this exact nature ended up becoming the best video on the platform. So YouTube is a long-term game. You never lose hope. Keep changing thumbnails and titles. We've changed the thumbnail like 5 times for this already. And so we're going to keep experimenting until it works, because there's never a video will never work forever. It's not worked yet. You got to keep doing what you can do to make it work. Now, in terms of metrics, YouTube blasts these metrics for you front and center, click-through rate and average view duration, but these metrics do not correlate to views, and I have proof of that. I've worked with YouTubers with crazy number of subscribers and stuff like that, and I'll show you, right? 11 million subscribers and what the metrics look like. But at the end of the day, what YouTube looks at is not the click-through rate or the average view duration. It's, well, let me show you. So I have a client with 11 million subs that I've previously made a quick breakdown video to show his analytics. You know, this is when we started working together. This is what happened after we've been working together, right? He has gotten 365 million long form views. These are not shorts. These are not, you know, reels shorts, right? These are long form views in the last 1 year. And if you look at the metrics, the average view duration he has over all of them is 7 minutes. The average percentage viewed is 30%. The average impressions are quite high, but the impressions click-through rate on average is 8%. Okay, so let's say the benchmark that you will think is, okay, so if it's above 8% average click-through rate, the video will blow up. If it's above 30% average percentage viewed, it's going to blow up. But when I rank by highest views, the funny thing is that this one has 20% viewed, which means people only viewed 20% of the whole video. This one has 9% click-through rate though. Now the second most popular video has 28% average percentage viewed, which is again below the average of his channel. And the impressions click-through rate is 4.9%. It's way lower. Then we see the third most popular video is 26%, 8.3%, 17%, and 13.7%. So you see how, although there is a delicate balance between the two, it's never a higher click-through rate and higher average view duration equals to more views, right? It's typically, you see most of these fall below the bench line or right about the bench line or benchmark of 30% and 8%. So the lesson to be learned here is that none of these metrics, when combined together, really matter in the sense that you would think about them. Of course, these things matter. I will not say they don't, right? You can still use impressions, click-through rate, and average view duration to compare your videos against your other videos that are similar, but you cannot use it to compare the video's performance. You can't say that, oh, it's hit 30% view duration, so this video is going to start blowing up now. That's not the case. There can be some correlation, but there will never be causation. The causation is not the clicks or the percentage viewed. The causation is the topic. Frankly, that's just how YouTube works, right? It's not a metrics-based system in the way that there's a trigger point where once it hits 30%, it's going to blow up, or once it hits 8%, it's going to blow up. And these numbers are not consistent across channels either. Like every channel has different metrics that are working differently for them. So it's YouTube analytics are a very complex game. In my opinion, if you don't know anything, it's better to keep yourself that way and not think about the metrics at all. And the only thing you should think about is impressions. How many impressions is your video getting? That's basically the only thing you should look at. Because impressions, even though it doesn't have a direct correlation with views, it typically has a higher correlation with views than compared to click-through rate and average view duration. Now, impressions basically just means how many people see your content surfaced on their homepage or suggested page or such, right? So it's people see it, it's not about what numbers YouTube shows you. It's about people seeing it in their feed. That's at the end of the day, the only metric that I've seen correlate to views. At least the metric that correlates the most to views, right? Now you've learned how to upload videos like a pro, seed, early traction, and track the only metric that matters, which is impressions. But now the question becomes, how do you take this from just one-off uploads into compounding momentum, right? So now let's talk about the exact growth accelerators that you can use to turn your first 15 YouTube videos into a long-term pipeline of leads and revenue. We'll talk a little bit about the algorithm as well, but we'll also talk about the major reasons why people don't end up getting views early on. Most people think that YouTube growth is slow, and it is, but it's slowest the earlier you are with your channel. Now, what happens is that most founders upload 5 to 10 videos and then quit, thinking that YouTube is not working, because you see ads, turn on ads, they work within a couple days, right? You start posting on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, and until a year ago, it would work immediately. It's just gotten a lot harder now than it used to be before. But regardless, Instagram works way faster. YouTube, the reason it feels slow is because YouTube tests your videos in tiny buckets first. Therefore, your growth will look invisible until compounding kicks in. So how this works is basically you upload videos and YouTube is not like, okay, let me show this to everybody, right? It's not that. YouTube is skeptical at first. Think of the YouTube algorithm as a mad scientist. What does a scientist do? It experiments. Okay? So how the algorithm works is you upload a video, YouTube experiments based on the initial data it has. So it's the title, the thumbnail, description, the video content. It will predict who would most likely watch your video. So it will form, let's say, 5 or 10 kind of people, right? So it could be, let's say I upload a video about Facebook ads. Now, Facebook ads is a very broad topic. Facebook ads content could be watched by somebody who has never watched Facebook ads content before, but watches content about business and marketing. It could be watched by somebody who works at a company that only watches content about Facebook ads because that's their job, a media buyer. Or it could be for somebody who owns a brand or a business, so they can watch content about Facebook ads. Or it could be me. I started a small business. I maybe made an Instagram account teaching people how to train their pets better. Small business, never gotten clients before, and I think I should run Facebook ads, so I watch a video about it, right? So there's so many different buckets of audiences who would be interested in Facebook ads as a topic itself. Now, YouTube doesn't know which one is the right target audience for you. because they will not hyper judge your video in that sense and form opinions on it, right? It's just very brief, overtly, outwardly broad opinions are formed, and from there YouTube now serves your video to a few different audience segments. Now these audience segments, based on how they react, so let's say YouTube shows your video to 10 people in their feed, right? So impressions, 10 impressions. Now this doesn't mean that every of those 10 people will react positively, right? So let's say it's 10 different audience segments, and each one of those, only one of them ends up responding positively, means they end up clicking the video and watching the video. Now, it depends a lot on your video, how much they resonate with it, how long they watch it, and what they watch after watching your video also matters to YouTube, because their goal is to keep people on the platform, not to keep them just watch one video and leave. So to keep people on the platform, the only thing that they can do is to judge the session time. So if only 1 out of those 10 people ended up watching your video, what YouTube is going to do is serve it to more people like that one person. Now that one person could be in a different mindset that day, and that's why they watched the video. It doesn't represent the whole bucket or segment of audience. But YouTube can be slow because of that reason, where YouTube doesn't know that this person is reacting out of emotions or reacting out of some personal situations, right? So that's why the algorithm is very complex, because now think about this. Now imagine there's 100 different audience segments. YouTube has to individually test each segment, form a hypothesis based on, okay, these 5 segments reacted out of the 100, but only 1 out of those 100 segments really reacted positively, where they watched your video, then watched multiple other videos. So then YouTube will prioritize that person, but that person could have been an anomaly. So YouTube then has to again go back and experiment more. So it's a very mad scientist kind of approach. Therefore, early on, you're not going to see traction in the way that you expect. And so if you stop before your first 15 YouTube videos, you'll never even let the algorithm discover your real audience. And if I remember these statistics correctly, it's something like 99% of people don't even go past their first 11 uploads. So you don't even reach that threshold of 15 videos. But here's why 15 videos actually matter. Because around video number 12 to 15, YouTube has enough data. If you're uploading good content, that is, right? If you're uploading you're just throwing content, throwing spaghetti at the wall, it's going to take even longer for that spaghetti to stick. But if you follow this process of having the right research, the right ideas, good thumbnails and titles, then it takes about 12 to 15 videos for YouTube to have enough data to accurately predict who your content is for. And that's when your impressions and views start compounding, and you end up getting views from the right people. Because that's another big thing is, right, your audience segment may be people who are only in the US, but YouTube doesn't know that. It's not going to listen to you about if you say only for people in America. It's not going to do that. It's going to still test out people from different audience segments, people who are watching at different times of day. There's so many nuances that you will not think about, but that's what the algorithm is looking at. Okay, what time of day are people watching this kind of content? Where are they located? Because YouTube knows if you're in the gym, YouTube knows if you're, wherever, because Google knows everything about you, right? So YouTube knows that when you're in the gym, you only watch content of a certain type. Therefore, they're going to surface content of that type to you at that time of day. And these sort of little nuances with each individual viewer and their viewing behaviors really influence the algorithm, because at the end of the day, the algorithm is not generalizing your content. It is specifically making it appealing to each person that it thinks it's gonna resonate with this content. So it's a very, very, very deep web of threads of individual choices. Therefore, it can sometimes take 16 videos, 20 videos, but on average, it takes 12 to 15 videos, right? I've seen 14 to 15 be the magic number, that once you have those 14 to 15 videos, you'll typically start seeing at least one of your videos see success, because YouTube now has enough data on what's working, what's not working, who's resonating, who's not resonating. But YouTube is going to have lesser data the lesser views you have. Like, imagine if you have 10 views, 10 views, 10 views, 10 views on each video. One video gets 100 views. That is not enough data for YouTube to judge your content off of, because those 100 views could be from one video that is an anomaly. It's not a typical video on your channel. So then YouTube is again skeptical with your next upload, because the previous 9 uploads don't follow the same pattern, right? So there's a lot of nuances that you don't think about that I know exist. Therefore, YouTube is a long-term game, because it takes time to get you the right audience. But once it does, you just go with the flow and you scale at an exponential level over time, right? There are peaks and valleys, here and there, but in the long term, the growth is going to be not linear, but exponential. So, and this has worked out for our clients too. So like Christian, for example, the luxury watch dealer, he's had basically at this point almost 7-figure deals come in for him, but a lot of deals in the pipeline. And if you look at how the channel worked for him, you see the subscriber count, right? If you look at the lifetime, okay, he started in May, he had by the end of June, so he started almost 2 months in, he had 37 subscribers and we were posting videos regularly. Then by the end of August, it had 10x to 340. By the end of September, we have reached 765. You see how exponentially it is growing. Of course, I'm not saying it's going to be 10x each month, right? But you see the jump, from July to now. We've gone from basically in the first 2 months having about 50 subscribers gained or 100 subscribers gained by the end of July, which is May, June, July. So 3 months. Then you see only August and September has gone from 100 to 765. So that's just how YouTube works. It's compounding. It's long term. And this is not just for one client. I mean, I have tons of other clients like Simply Bitcoin. Their views per video grew from 8,000 to 11,000, and now they're hitting 40 to 50,000 views per video. And that's because YouTube is exponential. Even if you already have an established channel, if you do things right, it becomes exponential again. But if you do things wrong, you're going to stay stagnated. Now let's talk about the next thing, which is how to layer short form content into your long form approach. So my opinion, the easiest way to repurpose your YouTube content is take your long videos and post them. If I show you what we've done for Christian as well, is basically the same thing. We've been posting content for him for a very long time, and we have so many shorts, and all of these shorts are, some of them get 2,000, 3,000 views. Some of them get more, like 2,000, 3,000 views. This one got 20,000 views, but it's not repurposed, so it's strategically made to get views. So of course it got views. But regardless, we're getting so many 2,000, 3,000, 1,000, 3,000, whatever views. And these are all videos that are repurposed from his long form. So we just take the long form content, we split it down. Once we've already edited it so that we can repurpose the edits, and it's very easy. You just need to know what makes a good short form content clip. You can't just clip everything because it won't work, because that's not how humans behave. People don't just watch content because you post content. It's content if they like it, if it resonates with them, if they feel something. So you gotta find those right moments that will either give them immense value in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, or something that will trigger their emotion in some way. But this is just a way to, get more out of what you're already doing, rather than think of it as, I'll post these and go viral. You're not Alex Hormozi. It's not going to happen for you, no matter who you are. Now, at this point, we have gotten growth momentum. But frankly, if you try to run the system by yourself, as a busy founder, you have a company, you have employees, you have clients, you'll burn out, obviously. And YouTube is a compounding machine, but compounding only works when you can stay consistent. That's why I want to next talk about how to scale from a one-person show to a lean, powerful content team that does most of the heavy lifting for you. By lean, I mean using AI and everything, which I've already shown you the workflows of. It's just all of the things that we've discussed so far. If you try to do them yourself, it's going to take you at least 15 to 20 hours per week at bare minimum, and research has to be consistently done every month because your competitors improve, they come up with more ideas, so you got to keep looking at what's working and what's not working. And then your ideation itself therefore depends on the content strategy and research. You got to do content strategy and research minimum every quarter, but ideally every month. So that's easily 8 to 10 hours gone there. And then ideation itself will take you 4 to 6 hours bare minimum every single month. So that's easily 15 hours just for that. And then each video's thumbnails and titles, especially thumbnails, will take you on average about 30 to 60 minutes per thumbnail. That's how much time I spend, because that's how important they are, Ideally, you want to spend way more time on it, but bare minimum is 30 to 60 minutes. And that's when I know exactly what I want to do, right? Or at least I have an idea of what works and what doesn't work in my niche. If I don't know anything, it's going to take me 3 or 4 hours per thumbnail. Frankly, bare minimum. And so if you really think about it, it adds up to about 15 to 20 hours per week. Scripting after that, even though you use ChatGPT, you've got to think about the flow you want and stuff like that. Then recording it. Editing is a major pain point, because editing takes the longest time out of any part of the process. So I would recommend doing this. Start YouTube as a solo creator if that's fine with you, but I would recommend following the lines of what everybody does, right? Alex Hormozi spends, this was 2 years ago, he was spending $125,000 per month on his content team. Iman Ghazi, 3 years ago, was hiring 3 thumbnail designers at once at total of $10,000. It was not just 3 thumbnail designers. It was, they had a fixed salary of $3,000 something per month, along with $100 commission per thumbnail he chooses from them. And this is when he was only uploading 1 video per week. So for 4 thumbnails every month, he's hiring 3 full-time staff and paying them $100 commission for each thumbnail he chooses from them. What does this tell you? That's how important thumbnails are, right? He could have hired 1 full-time person, but no, he hired 3 people, because the more ideas you have, the more you can experiment with thumbnails, the better your content is going to be, because you have more room to play with and experiment with things. Because at the end of the day, it's all human psychology, and human psychology is felt, not fact. MrBeast spends $10,000 per thumbnail mock-up, and he usually creates 4 to 5 mock-ups per video. So he spends $50,000 per video thumbnail. And that's when he used to do this 2 years ago. So I'm guessing he probably does 10 mock-ups now. I don't know, right? So if you're competing with people like them, you can't afford to do basic shit, because you are competing with people like them. No matter who you are and who you say your competition is, you are competing with Alex Hormozi, because the audience is not thinking, should I watch Mihir's content or Mihir's competitors? No, the audience is thinking, I have only 1 hour, what should I watch? And if Hormozi has a 1 hour video, your video is competing with that video, no matter who you are. Because if your audience watches Hormozi or MrBeast or whatever else they watch, Gordon Ramsay or whatever the fuck, people only have limited attention. Therefore, your content has to be better than not just your competition, but ideally your content should be more appealing to your target audience than Alex Hormozi's content is to them. So it's very important you do this right. And your content is a business system, not a passion project. Therefore, you need a team to execute with you. So here's the step-by-step evolution path I would follow if I were you. Right? So if you're, let's say, below $10,000, maybe if you're below $8,000 a month in your personal revenue, you should be doing everything, because frankly, it's just not worth it hiring people right now. Although I would still recommend maybe getting a coaching for it. It will still really help you, and I also personally do group coaching. So if you want, you can DM me, hit me up. I can hook you up if it makes sense for me to work with you. But this is good for learning the process, and it's bad for scaling, because at the end of the day, you will not frankly have enough time to execute everything yourself. So if you make over $10,000 a month, you have better use of your time. You could pay somebody $300, $500, $800 and spend your time, save those 20 weeks and focus on your business, right? If you get 1 new client, you'll make up more money than that. So think about it logically, right? There are, as Alex Hormozi says, there are $10 tasks, there are $1,000 tasks. Your job as a founder is to focus on the $1,000 per hour tasks or $100 per hour, not the $10 or $1 per hour, right? So all the bullshit stuff that you do not need to be doing, don't do it. Pay people who can do it for you. So your first hire, if you're hiring somebody part-time or full-time or freelance, whatever, should be a video editor, because 60% of your time with YouTube is going to be spent editing. It's the longest part of the process, but do not hire people from Fiverr, like I've told you before, because they know software, not retention psychology. So hire somebody who knows retention psychology, aka they have done YouTube before in niches that are kind of similar to yours, right? You don't want to hire somebody who has made Minecraft or Fortnite videos, because the retention psychology they will think about is fancy edit, so much music going on, blah, it's like a whole party scene, memes everywhere. That's not your target audience. Don't look at people who have experience working in other niches like gaming or entertainment, like MrBeast content. But people who have experience working with business, fitness, whatever your niche is. It doesn't have to be exactly your niche, but people who have made content for adults, not for children. It's very simply that. When you run YouTube channels, then you really truly understand how content works, because you understand what retention psychology is, when people are staying, when people are leaving, what makes somebody click on a video, what makes somebody engage and comment on a video. All of this stuff only comes from experience. Doesn't come from watching a course or whatever, which is what most of these Fiverr editors do. So I personally have got a bunch of editors on my team that I have trained up, and also I know some other freelancers that I've never hired, because my team just, I only take the best of the best. But if you've got a budget, $200, $250 per video, it depends a lot on, which editing style you want. But standard rate for editors really recently is about $200 to $250 per video. And that's how much I charge as well. So, if you want somebody who's really elite, an elite team, team, just come to us if you have the budget. But if you don't want to do that, you can still hire somebody off Fiverr, but I would recommend making them have a strict criteria they pass through, which is, firstly, don't work with somebody who charges below $100 per video, because they will not edit your videos the way you want. Trust me. No matter how much you think, they will never end up doing this, because I've interviewed and hired hundreds of video editors over the last 3 years, and this, in my opinion, is the first filter we look at, is how much do they charge? And of course, their portfolio matters, right? What are the niches they have worked in and stuff like that, but how much do they charge? And for us, it's a bit different, because we take people who are a 5 out of 10 on editing skills in terms of psychology, not in terms of the fanciness of the edit. And we make them 8 or 9 out of 10 over the course of 6 months or 12 months, because that's just how long it takes. So if you are ready to hire somebody who's a 5 out of 10, expect them to take 6 to 12 months if they have the right guidance or if they have the right willingness to learn, which for the most part, most people don't, because they only care about stacking money in their pocket. Therefore, I only end up hiring people who want to learn, who want to grow, to not just learn editing, but overall start learning other things, right? So start learning, video ideation and stuff like that. So I train my team to become good at human psychology, not just good at using Adobe softwares. So DM me if you need people, or email me. I'll have my email and socials in the description. Your second hire after that should be your thumbnail guy, because thumbnail is super important with ROI. So treat it as an ROI, not as an expense, because once you train them up on some swipe files on what works for your competitors, most people, who are good designers, although they'll charge good amount of money, but you will get a very, very, very good ROI on your content and you'll grow faster. So the first hire is to save you time. The second hire is to scale you faster. So most good thumbnail designers are expensive. Frankly, $150 or at least $100 per thumbnail is bare minimum these days. And even then, most of these people who charge $100, $150, they don't think. They only execute based on, okay, here's a reference, do the same thing. Here's my face, here's a picture of me, do the same thing of me. That's all they do. My team is hired because I hired people who most of them didn't know anything about thumbnails. So I trained them up to become good at thumbnails. So it took us 2 years or so to train up some video editors to become, good at overall YouTube. And those are the people who are doing the thing for us, because they are good at, they don't just think about the thumbnail, they think about the idea, the title, what's the hook, and they align everything together for you, right? So if you want people like that who are way cheaper than $150 per thumbnail, I've got people. You can email me if you want someone for your thumbnails, or you can pay me a little bit to get my full 2.5 hour long thumbnail masterclass, and your designer can use that so that they become, they go from being a 4 out of 10 to becoming a 6 or 7 out of 10 easily, just over those 2.5 hours. So I've got a masterclass. You can pay me, you can DM me, or you can email me, whatever, description, whatever makes sense for you, or you can hire somebody. Then I would recommend having a social media manager as your third hire. Now, this should be the person who looks at your long form content, decides what to turn into short form content for shorts, for reels, for TikTok. And also, this is the kind of person who's going to take your content to extract the best ideas to then post on LinkedIn, X, Instagram posts, and even for your emails, which is what I do. And this is how I turn one YouTube video into a week-long media machine, where I repurpose each video into, or I used to at least, and we do this for clients as well, repurpose each video into 75 plus pieces of content across every single social media platform, including email. So then finally, over time, you want to have a project manager, or as some people call it, a creative director. Now this is going to be a producer, project manager, creative director, essentially the same thing, where at scale, this is the kind of person who's going to manage everybody in your content team. Now, again, you don't need to hire somebody specifically for all of these roles, right? You can also just outsource to an agency like us who acts as a partner for you. We are not like an agency where we take on 20 clients every month. We only take on 1 or 2 new people every month, because we want to be like your partner. But this is the kind of person who will, if you just hire for yourself, the project manager, the producer, the creative director will be managing your editors, thumbnail guys, posting your content for you and everything. They'll oversee the workflow, deadlines, quality control, make sure there's no mistakes in the transcript of the videos, make sure there's no awkward pauses in the content, make sure that the video is as long as it should be, make sure that the right content is going out to the right platforms at the right time, and they will just help you ideate and script out content if you need. Now, this ladder is sequential in the nature of, don't jump to a producer if you haven't had a video editor or thumbnail guy. It's not going to work. And each layer compounds on the previous, or like I said, you can hire us for cheaper than what it would cost you to hire 2 full-time staff in the US. So we got the whole squad with 10 full-time staff, plus a bunch more freelancers that we work with.
depending on what you need. So we have, full-time thumbnail designers, full-time video editors, full-time people who help you with ideas. But typically, if you work with me, you'll work with me and my business partner only. We'll ideate for you. We won't outsource it to somebody down below unless you don't pay us enough. That's sometimes we do that for a few clients where they don't have the budget, but we can run it up for you. So we make it work somehow. But for the most part, you'll be working with me or my business partner one-on-one in a group chat, and we'll be communicating with you, ideating for you, scripting content for you ourselves. Now, once you have a system of people, you need a system of content management. This is what we do for our clients. So an example of this is for the client Christian. So we have like a weekly calendar for him to look at. We have a platform-based thing, what's in the works, what's working, what we're posting. Then we have like a workflow specifically for him. So it's, ideation, what's being ideated, what ideas do we already have that we need to work on. Then when the script is in approval, it's here. Then when he's shooting it, then when the video shoot is done, then it's going to be starting to edit, then edit is going to be corrected, then it's going to be approved, then it's going to be uploaded, right? So that's kind of the workflow. The reason it's not showing you everything is because I've put date of uploads this month, which is so if you look at past month, you're gonna see uploaded 38 pieces of content for him, focusing only on the main platforms for him. But yeah, so it's kind of like this, right? That's kind of the workflow, and of course we have so many other things here. So we've built it out on Notion very, very, very deeply, where we have deliverables tracker, we have a feed, we have table format, we have every single view. That's because each of our team members only work on this one Notion for the whole client, and the client also sees it and everybody sees it and it looks good, All right. Now, quickly, we'll just talk about some tools. So the most minimalistic setup you need to run this whole content strategy is Notion. You use it for task and project management. So video status, deadlines, content calendar, like I showed you. Google Drive is, just where your editors and people upload stuff and you share files. You can also use frame.io, but it's a tool that you need to pay for. But frame.io is better because people can directly comment on like 5 seconds in. So at this timestamp, do this. 10 seconds in this timestamp, let's change this, right? So it works, but it just adds more complication in my opinion. But it's necessary when you're in the recent phases with your editor, because they don't know your brand, they don't know what colors you like, they don't know what, how to speak to your audience, what frames to add in, blah, 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 which is why I recommend having somebody who can handle this, because just giving feedback to your editor can sometimes take you hours. Back and forth, 3 to 4 rounds of revision. It's just a lot of bullshit. Then you use ChatGPT or Claude for ideas, scripts, pattern breakdowns, and also titles. You can use Slack or WhatsApp, for your team to chat. Use Canva for thumbnails. You don't need Photoshop. If you're going to edit videos, you can use DaVinci Resolve or you can use Filmora. Those are 2 tools that I recommend. Those are the easiest tools that I recommend. DaVinci is free. Filmora is relatively very, very, very cheap compared to Adobe softwares, and it's also easier to use because it has a lot of templates and stuff. Then you can use Hypefury for posting content on X, LinkedIn, Instagram automatically, so you can schedule content. Hypefury is good because it's really just there's a lot more features as compared to a typical content scheduler. Then you can use ConvertKit or Go High Level for emails, lead nurturing for your funnels, right? So that's the system and team that you need to use. Now, finally, let's talk about how to make money from this. So we've briefly touched upon it, but the conversion mechanisms, right? How to monetize, how to build the right funnel, everything. Let's talk about it. There are a few different business models and each of them should sort of have different strategies. Although I'll not touch too much upon it, but it is important and I'll show it to you briefly what it would look like if you did it right or if you really delved deep into it. So I have something I call the YouTuPreneur way, and a small part of that is the YouTube strategy matrix, which basically has 10 types of YouTube strategy. And here we have, depending on what you sell, who you sell it to, there's a few different things you can do. So if you have an agency, right? So if you sell something done for you, completely done for you, your funnel will typically be about giving people checklists, freebies, lead magnets, and also booking a call. Because if it's something expensive, so you're selling something that's $1,000 a month or more, right? You gotta kind of have that mechanism. Now, I will say that not everybody needs a book a call funnel, but for the most part, most people who have an agency need a book a call funnel, right? It also depends a lot on how do you convert people. So let's say you have leads. Do you directly make them clients or do you have customers as a thing in the middle? If you sell a coaching offer, consulting offer, or do it yourself, so it's a course or whatever, I recommend having a $10 to $100 thing that you can sell, because it just filters out the people who are never going to buy. You can directly pitch this product in your content instead of pitching book a call to join my coaching program, whatever. It's just a lot of wasted time. So you can have this in the middle as a $10, $200 one-time thing you can sell, or even a recurring thing, but it's just to filter out the people who will never buy. So then from the people who've already bought the small low ticket stuff, you can upsell them into becoming clients, and you can have offer variations. So you can have offer ascension. So you sell them on a low ticket coaching program, then a higher ticket, then your done for you service can also be there. That's kind of what I recommend, but you don't need to think about all of that right now. If your business is working the way you like it, don't overthink it, but it's just what I recommend in terms of the funnel. That's basically it, right? We've already talked about every aspect of YouTube that you need. Now let's just close it all together, bring it all together. So that's how all of this comes together, because once you've got the funnel aligned to your offer, right? So if you're selling something done for you, you'll have a book a call. If you're selling something done with you, I recommend having a smaller tier, cheaper paid product, or even for do it yourself. So, low ticket paid product. But if you don't want that, you can also push people into an email list, or you can push people to a VSL. That also works. But typically when you have a done with you or do it yourself offer, I recommend having a one-time product. And for a done for you offer, you can have a book a call sequence, but book a call can also be VSL and then booking a call from the VSL, right? So it's, there's different ways to do the book a call, of course. VSL, of course, works better, but you can also host a VSL on YouTube. Therefore, your video itself can act as a VSL, so you don't need that necessarily always. And so that's how all of this comes together, because once you've got the funnel aligned, the content you're making is no longer just YouTube videos. It's a pipeline of leads. Some of them are warm, some of them are cold, some of them will convert immediately, some of them will take 2 or 3 months, but you've got the pipeline. You've got people who are watching you for you and who will buy from you only because they trust you only for a certain thing. So now I know this was a lot, and the truth is, if you just take what I showed you here and apply it, the 15 video rule, the packaging system, the retention frameworks, how to do strategy, how to do ideas, you will start to see results, and I guarantee you will start to see results. But I also know that most people won't follow through, because things like this always look easier than they are, and you know this, I know this, everybody knows this. That's why I have a couple resources for you to download from the description below, the strategy, the research, and a couple other freebies below. These are the exact same resources that I have used to help clients pull in 5 figures, 6 figures, and even 7-figure deals. And if you're sitting there wondering if this really works, let me remind you, Christian, luxury watch dealer, at this point 750 subscribers. He's already fielding hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of inbound deals, people emailing him. Then a crypto brand that we worked with has gotten over 5 million views from their target audience in the last year alone, and generating them way more money than you can imagine. Again, I can't reveal the numbers. And we have a ton of other results for a ton of other people in a ton of other niches that I can show you right now. So crypto entrepreneur, we've got a WWE pro wrestler he went from 1,700 to 68,000 subscribers, 9-figure public speaker, doubled his subscriber count, NFT media company, like I showed you, a 7-figure agency owner who was stuck at 400 subs. We took him to 1,000 subscribers in 3 months, and he was stuck at 400 subs for 3 months. And so we 2.5x'd his subscriber count in just 3 months. And he was running ads. You can see how it worked out in 2022. So we've been doing this for a very long time. Alex Finn with 200k Twitter followers. He went from 1,000 to 9,000 subscribers in just the matter of 3 to 4 months. And he launched a paid product after this that makes him $20,000 a month. Then we got Simply Bitcoin, a Bitcoin media company. As I told you, their videos are getting 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 views. A former 7-figure agency owner who's worked with Sony, Universal Music, etc. You can see the results he's gotten. And then the redacted YouTuber that I cannot talk about, with 40 million plus subscribers across all of his channels, including the 10 million subscriber channel that I showed you earlier. He's getting regular 1 out of 10s and, well, crazy. You can see 16 days, 1.4 million views on his videos. His main channel has more than 10 million subscribers. At the time, it reached 11 million later on. And then one of his channels that he started, that he was struggling to grow, after just one consultation call and a strategic pivot, the channel went from this to this. 66 million views in the last 90 days. Then another channel got the silver play button from YouTube. And Christian, like I've showed you, this was just a month ago. I had pasted these screenshots. They had 300 subscribers at the time. And now you can see. I've also advised MrBeast myself on his YouTube strategy, and it was a long conversation. I even made a video about it. And I've also personally delivered 3 separate masterclasses for Tai Lopez and his inner circle. So yeah, we know this works because we've done this for years. And these are just some of the results. We also have a ton more, but these aren't outliers. They're proof that when you build the right videos over 3 or 4 months, YouTube stops being a guessing game and starts being your number one client engine. Even last 2 months ago, I had a client who told me that he was spending $4,000 a month in ads, and one YouTube video alone that got over 40,000 views from his target audience replaced all of that $4,000 ad spend in just the first 3 days of uploading it. That 1 month of ad spend versus 3 days of one video, you can see the difference, right? So here's the thing. If you're a founder, a coach or consultant or an agency owner, and you're already doing at least $20,000 a month or more in revenue, and you don't just want to know this stuff, but you actually want a done for you team to execute all of this for you, then book a call with me personally from below. On that call, we'll map out exactly how YouTube will become your number one growth channel in the next 6 months without needing 100,000 subscribers or even 10,000 subscribers. So even if you're starting from zero, without paying for ads, without chasing short form content, we can still get you to have a 6-figure pipeline within just 6 months of starting. So on that call, I'll show you exactly how we can manage and execute the same system for you that's added over $1 million in revenue for our clients, step by step, but specifically built for your business and your niche. Looking at your competitors, whether direct, adjacent, or alternative. So all you have to do is just show up for 2 to 3 hours every month to film the content, whether one time or every week, and we'll handle everything else for you, right? So we'll handle the scripts, the strategy, the ideation, the title, thumbnails, editing, the optimizations, the funnel itself if you need help with that. So you can now either download the assets below if you're curious, or you can book the call if you're serious. But either ways, don't waste another year making content that looks successful but never moves the needle. This is your chance to flip the game, just like I did with under 800 subscribers. So I'll see you either there, or I'll see you having results from this. And if you see results just from this masterclass, you can tweet at me or DM me on Instagram or whatever. I'd love to see what you've done.